episode number 47, Kamen Rider Fourze the movie, Everybody It's Space Time. Today I have with me Vangelus.
Hi, I just stopped my torrent program, so ideally I shouldn't be on a weird, jilted leg from almost all of you.
Cool. Also we have with us IGADEVIL.
Hi, I just got up.
Alright.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
We also have with us Craig, the Scream Man Moore.
I also just got up, which makes me 2 hours lazier than Paul.
Good morning.
And lastly we have with us Alicia Lynxara Ashby.
Hello, hello.
Alright, and
Good
we're going to
morning.
be reviewing the Kamen Rider Fourze movie. We're going to just jump right into it instead of doing geeking first, and then after that, if we get some time, we can just geek about and talk about impressions on the new Super Sentai and whatnot. Alright then. So,
You're mixing this up, man. I don't know how to deal with this anymore.
Just go head first and don't look behind, and then we'll start with IGADEVIL. What do you think of the movie?
I liked it. Not much else to say there.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hang on. IGADEVIL, are you saying that you liked a Kamen Rider movie?
I know. It's a shock, but yeah, I enjoyed this film a lot.
In general, what did you like about it besides being Kamen Rider?
I thought it was really good. Just overall, just a nice, solid, action-packed little film. It's of all the summer movies, anyway, of the single rider films, if you want to call them that. I think the last 4 in a row have all been really good. I like the O's one, I like Double, and I like Decades, and this was another good one.
My sudden oh my god is because I almost stepped in this pile of cat puke that I just spotted, so sorry about that.
Good morning.
God dang it. So, anyway, do you remember, you saw it in the theater, what was
Yes.
What was the in-theater reaction like? Was everybody, cheering and having a good old time?
Was everyone stony-faced silent in the Japanese tradition?
It was actually I think, almost like the day before the film stopped showing. Yeah, I didn't see it until the very end because I was busy with a lot of other stuff, moving in. But so it wasn't the most packed theater, but there was a good number of families there, and it was all right, I guess.
Were there
All right.
kids?
Yeah.
What do Japanese kids do in movies? Because the only time I saw a movie in Japan, I saw Sukiyaki Western Django on the last day it was in theaters. So it was just me and my friend, because it was literally the last hour that the movie was in theaters that we caught it in a tiny theater. So I don't actually know what movie theaters are like in Japan.
Well, you saw the next too, didn't you?
Oh yeah, that's right. That was that was a lot of silence, except at the very end when everyone at the jump scare, and then
Yeah.
really polite laughter, and then everyone left. And
Alright.
Better than my theater, but
To get the negativity out of the way, Craig, what'd you think of it?
don't color his opinion at all going in or anything.
I was going to say, I wish I hadn't told you what I thought before we started.
Oh no, you did! Oh,
Yeah, that was stupid.
Spoilers!
Yeah, I did not like it. I didn't like it much at all. I've got a couple of good points I'll mention, but I thought it was horrible.
Damn. Alright. Alicia Ashby, what'd you think?
I thought it was wonderful. I had a lot of fun with it. I feel like the extent to which someone will probably like or dislike this movie is probably how much they like the show, because the movie is so much just what the show was trying to do, crammed into about 60-70 minutes.
Okay. We'll get back to you, Craig. We'll get back to you.
Okay.
But we just want to finish with Vangelus, what'd you think?
well, I actually said what I thought about it earlier today on Twitter, so I can't yell at Craig for spoiling anything. But I thought it was fun. The way I looked at it was it felt a lot like what I liked about the O's movie, wrapped in much superior visuals. And I really liked the visual effects on Black Knight. It felt like they took everything that didn't quite work about Axel Booster and sat down and went how do we make this look like it's less of an After Effects effect? And I thought they did a good job with that. Visually, I had a really good time with this thing, and it was just a fun little romp. I thought it brought out some of the best of Gentarou, as just a one shot of who this goofy dude is, and Yeah, like my real, I felt coming out of this, like my big capsule was, it was like O's Wonderful with a whole lot of fixes. And there's one thing at the end which also felt like a slightly less effective version of something from A to Z, which I can elaborate on later on.
All right. And I also loved it quite a bit. It was, I mean, the story wasn't, complex or anything, but it reminded me of like the mission, like me and my friends would like pull together when we were kids and get our toys together and run off into space and just start shooting stuff, and that in itself was fun. And also, for as much crap as I gave Fourze when it was on the air, I love it when they're back on the screen. Like, these guys are so much fun, and with Koichi Sakamoto directing and action, it's just constant fun, gunslinging, kicking, acting like Bruce Lee, robots posing, and Dutch camera angles, and just, I had a whole lot of fun with it.
Well, I'd like to thank everyone for my time here on HJU Radio. I've really had a lot of fun, and I'm sorry that I won't be
Good morning.
The difference of opinion makes the podcast interesting, Craig.
I really thought I was.
So much?
I knew I'd be fighting Paul. I didn't expect to be fighting all of you.
Let's get him! Superhero Tyson, attack!
I want to say this happened to me on one of these, but I forgot which one.
I feel like it did.
I'll never forget.
It was me versus everyone else on something, and I forgot what it was, and I forgot which side I was on.
I'll never forget the time when all my friends betrayed me during Superhero Tyson, so...
Oh yeah, that happened. I forgot. Good morning.
Well, if it helps, I didn't like Superhero Tyson all that much either.
That doesn't help at all. It makes it worse.
Oh sorry.
It was all of us versus Keith. Like me, it was me and Paul talking down on the movie. It was, I don't know. It was funny.
Well, let me put it this way. I preferred Superhero Tyson to this.
Wow, Jesus.
Really?
Oh. Ew.
I would really like to know what made you so mad at this movie, because for me, I'm just like, this is basically Guy Memory's A to Z, but a little bit less so. But that's okay, it's Fourze.
Okay, well, how do you want to play this, Keith? Do you want me to just list off my complaints and then you guys yell at me for 20 minutes and then I'll do the next one?
Don't be nice to Superhero Tyson. Superhero Tyson doesn't need people to be nice to it. Keith's already nice enough.
I'm not being nice to it. I still didn't like that movie. I just didn't like this movie more.
Just say you'd prefer the Kiva movie or something.
Not liking this movie, but this was worse than Superhero Tyson is. Like, that is strong stuff. That is like, this movie raped my dog and kicked my cat.
Superhero Tyson wasn't that bad.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you this much. The two things... The worst thing about Superhero Tyson was the ending, and one of the best things about this movie was the ending. So in some ways, the things that I liked were flipped, I guess you could say. Well, how do you want me to do it? Do you want me to go through the things I liked or the things I didn't like?
I would like to hear things you don't like.
All right. My first thing was that I liked Fourze. I didn't love Fourze, and I thought towards the end of Fourze that they kind of lost the point of where they were going. But I did like it overall. But this kind of movie pointed out to me everything that I didn't like and condensed it down into an hour. Mm-hmm. Like, every character was like the most extreme, stupid version of themselves. And that really bugged me. For example, if I had to hear... I'm going to get all the names wrong. Miyu is the princess, the queen.
Whoops.
Oops.
Yes.
Oh, if I had to hear her go oops one more time, she was gonna smack her lips off. Like, oh my god. Oops. Shut up. Shut up. It wasn't a clever catchphrase when you used to do it in the show. And she uses it wrong. Oops is when you make a mistake. It's not an expression, just whenever you fucking feel like it.
Oops.
like you said before, like it's really hard to defend these things because it is down to subjective opinion. I mean, you're right. It is not how you use oops, but it's like
well, she's always used oops wrong, so I'm just used to it.
But in the show,
it's like she says it like 4 times in the film, and most times when she says it, it's pretty. It kind of stands out because it doesn't really sound natural. Like I think we just stopped subbing it in the overtime subs because it's like she was saying it at random. But it didn't really stick out that much to me. To be totally honest, I was.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was so happy about the one fight she got, and the queen dies her. She could have been saying it every other line. I would have been like, okay, go shoot things some more.
If it's only 4 times, it felt like more. I don't know. Like it was like she had some sort of weird Tourette's, and every so often she just toops. Oh, jeez, sorry about that, guys. But I mean, that's just a small exaggeration. Like Jake kind of got forgotten in the movie. Tomo sort of got forgotten in the movie. Tomo, that's her name, right? The goth girl.
Tomoko?
Tomoko? Dang, so close.
Is that it?
Tomo, I think, is
Tomoko.
the shortening. Yeah, Tomoko.
Hold on a sec. I hate to do this, but I just had my computer just froze for a sec.
Okay.
So my recording's it's like off with the rest of you guys.
Okay.
Give him a 3, 2, 1 beep just for Paul, and that should help resync this.
Cool. 3, 2, 1. Beep!
Beep.
Oh, I just meant for Paul to do it, but whatever.
Well, no, it makes sense because now we'll all sync up with a beep. So shall I just
do it
keep going?
again for Paul?
Yeah.
Vangelus? Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Again?
Oh,
What?
I thought we were going to let Paul do it.
Oh, this
no,
doesn't
no.
matter.
Okay.
It doesn't
He
matter
doesn't
now.
have to.
We're all good.
All right, then.
It's fine.
Woo! Good morning.
So anyway,
Hi, Internet.
I thought that Gentarou was like. Remember how I said that the way that Yuki went crazy was she smoked all of Fourze's gas every time he transforms?
Yep.
Apparently, Gentarou
Yes.
has been slowly inhaling it as well, because he seems to have gone into the most extreme Gentarou that he could possibly have been. And for the most part, I was fine with it, but it was when he was on the ship, and they revealed that they had actually hurt the ship, and he's like, "No!" and fell down. I burst out laughing. I was like, "You got him! Come on!" What?
And for myself, like I said, for some reason, this cast won me over through the movies. So yeah, dude is overacting, and it's I wouldn't say it's very convincing, but I found myself liking the actor and the character so much and he's putting so much energy behind it. I'm just like, all right, dude, all right. I don't mind it. It's kind of endearing to me now.
I think Gentarou was the best part of Fourze, far and away. It was just in this movie. He well, I mean, everyone made stupid, irrational decisions, but he was the most stupid and irrational of all of them. Which is, saying something for this group. But okay, so just going through, I wrote down little things as they came out, and the first thing I've written here is bulletproof bus. Because apparently, the bad guys have... was it Black Knight that was attacking the bus? I think it was.
Yes, it was.
Black
He has
Knight
no
attacks the bus.
compunctions against shooting little children.
Two SUVs explode and flip over. The bus,
And I thought
the windows broke, eventually.
I thought the bus was flipping over.
Oh, no, the bus didn't flip over. I just figured that, given what we now know of the lady who was in charge of the bus, I just didn't really find it unbelievable that they would heavily reinforce that thing.
Yeah, that
because
was
she's gonna be
clearly
driving
supposed
on
to be
it.
a tip-off that, wait, why do they have this awesome attack bus?
Really?
It's also toku science that cars generally are invulnerable except for when they're supposed to flip over and explode.
Well, larger
I'm
vehicles have
kinda
higher
used to it.
armor class. I mean, when they were advertising Ultimatum, the way it was see the riders fight a big rig. It's not see them fight like a million demons. It's, oh my god, guys are going to fight an 18-wheeler. Because clearly the 18-wheeler has 18 wheels. It's 18 times as strong as a bike. These guys are screwed.
Armor class plus 20.
Yes.
I just... Sorry, go on.
No, I had nothing useful to say.
I was gonna
That
say
happens sometimes.
like plot armor is something that you kind of have to deal with in all sorts of shows, but the plot armor of this thing was like rebounding bullets, and that's, I don't know.
Well, but if they made it knowing that Inga Brink's running around with Black Knight, and they're sort of expecting Black Knight to try and jump them, then it's clearly filling in something that maybe the movie should have explained, but I think it's not unreasonable to be like, oh, well, they just built their bus to be able to stand up to him.
Balancing out the negative. Let's hear IGADEVIL. What do you love?
What did I love? Well, I guess to get to that point of how the characters were acting and all that, and sort of using their catchphrases. I think that's a normal movie thing. You know, every time they have the movies, they have to kind of, especially with the Den-O ones, I always think of how it's like a requirement. We must get everyone's catchphrase in there. We must have all the usual bits and things like that.
That used to irk me in Den-O too.
Yeah, I'm sure. So I don't know, that I just kind of roll with that as a movie thing. And as for like the over dramatics, like when Gentarou,
Breaks down.
breaks down.
Why did you do that?
God,
That
no.
you know, it's really funny, but I think it's very much in character. I mean, all throughout the movie, like right from the first scene there, when he's doing the handshake with the mouse. You know, it's showing how he's in a way he's very simple-minded, but in a very kind of innocent way, and he really wants to believe that he can become friends with this giant battle station robot and computer thing.
Struck
and all that,
me as an
so.
extremely Ishinomori plot beat. Like that's actually one of the things that charmed me about the film. There is a lot of people have been like, oh no, they made these characters bad guys, but like the actual point that Ishinomori would tend to make with these kinds of characters, that actually I think made it through loud and clear.
Yeah.
See, okay, hang on. I just want to. I'm sorry. I really don't want to fight every point that everyone makes, but
No, it's not a fight. Please say.
Gentarou to me was like one of the reasons I liked him so much is that I always felt like the. You're right. He's a charmingly simple character, but I thought, especially early on in the show, I always felt like that was partly just the surface. Like there was always Gentarou was always smarter than he appeared to be. I still maintain that he figured out who Meteor was the first time he met him.
He probably did.
And that's where I differ. During the TV series, I thought he was mad simple and stupid. And for some reason, in the TV series, I felt I was waiting for there to be the reveal that there's more depth to him, and there's a reason why he's like that. But by the end of it, I've kind of accepted it, and it's just kind of cool to just simply hang out with him again and have him clown around and friendship it up.
Yeah, I didn't mind that he wants to be friends with everybody thing. Like that was part of his character, and I was cool with that. But he was never dumb. And in this movie, when he's like shaking hands with the mouse and stuff, I'm like, dude, you know what a fucking mouse is? Come on, you're being stupid. And I get that it was making a point that he wants to be friends with machines and stuff as well. And I'm like, there's a big difference between a satellite AI and your mouse. It'd be like if I wanted to be friends with a toaster. I mean.
That was really stupid, but it reminded me so much of Mega Ranger. I couldn't hate it. Like Kenta really was in Mega Ranger, just kind of an idiot. And I think he actually does something along those lines at one point, and then the other characters are like, dude, stop being an idiot. And like the only difference in the scenes is just that Gentarou's friends expect him to do this, and they won't call him out in public for being kind of an idiot. But they will just be like, please stop, no.
I thought that bit with the mouse actually really worked, because I was like, this dude probably has never used a computer in his life, and so he's just going to apply his life science to it, which is, I'm going to befriend you, I'm going to do my outward projection of my friendliness, and I will hit the buttons really hard with all my heart. And then he breaks the computer.
What teenager in 2012 has never used a computer before in their life?
A Japanese teenager
possibly
with that
a
haircut.
Japanese one. Because they tend to be more about the mobile phones for their computer use and laptops. He may have actually never sat down with a PC before.
I always just took Gentarou as being a kind of like, I always looked at him as being kind of like a city country boy. Like he just walks in. If he doesn't know how something works, then he's not going to be apprehensive about it at all. He's just going to apply the Gentarou life sciences to it. Like I imagine when faced with a piece of heavy machinery, he's like, all right, we are going to be friends. I'm going to bop my fist in you a few times and hit the biggest button as hard as I can and see what happens. It's like his learning process.
All right, hold on 1 second. We're going to take a break for some technical difficulties and be right back in a split second to you guys.
宇宙無限のコズミックエナジーを秘めた神秘の世界。若者たちは アストロスイッチでその扉を開き未来を作るスペースオンユアハンドその手で宇宙をつかめ
細チューバーが赤立てハンドリーな everyday まだまだ足りない夢は large size Kamen switch on Let the future そんなのは不採用思いつき明治未来へ blast up 公式難解にがない人の話だけで知った気にならないで果敢にタフにチャレンジ限界なんでぶっ壊してやれ自分の手で昨日よりステップアップ Going going my friends 大危険だって飛ばして旅立ちのキャンペーン止まらない黒い超刺激的スクールデイズ行こうぜ
And here we are again. Where do we leave off?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh yes, keyboard. Oh, I just want to jump in. Like, how seriously I take a story depends on the story. So, like, if it's something like Superhero Taisen or this, I shift my gear down. Like, I can't expect the detailed depth of Garo from something that involves every superhero ever created to be in one movie, or something like Fourze, which has never been serious at all whatsoever. So when Gentarou is like fist bumping a mouse, it's because that's what he does in this universe. He's a dopey, silly dude, and it doesn't break any laws of that world. It's just the kind of comedy and silliness the movie does. So if it does it, I'm in the mode now to just accept it. Especially when it's outside the TV series. For some reason, TV series drove me crazy, but now I'm like, when's the next Fourze movie? Because I have so much fun with these guys.
Yeah, the movie had kind of a cartoony tone to it. Now I always felt that the show was also going for kind of a very broad, cartoony sort of tone. Obviously, some people would disagree with me. In the movie, I just felt like, it's the movie, everything's going to be big, so, they just sort of blew up all the things that the TV show usually did.
So, Craig, what do you think of that? Like, given the tone of the series and the world, why not? I mean,
again, not to spoil some of the stuff that we're geeking on, but the new Ranger show, which I'm going to call Dinosaur Ranger because I can't pronounce it on air, is
Kyoryuger.
The new dinosaur show. To me, that is goofy done right. Okay, I haven't seen episode 3 yet, so I don't know if it takes a deep end. But like 1 and 2 are silly, but they're not. They're not. There's a difference between silly and stupid. And Fourze, when it started, Fourze was silly, and I was fine with that. Den-O is silly, but it's neither of them are ever. Well, no, okay. Both of them get to points where they're stupid. The end of Fourze, Yuki was so annoying to me that every time she was on screen, I would audibly sigh. Like everyone it felt like they'd lost the point of where these characters were when they started. They'd just gone wacky, and just. I don't know. I'm not being able to express it very well. I'm sorry about that, but it just... I can't... The best way I can say it is that there's a difference between silly and stupid, and I felt like this was stupid.
Okay. Vangelus, you feel the same way?
I thought this... Personally, I didn't think this thing crossed the line too far, mostly because I like my own perception of how these characters work. I thought it operated inside the realms of that pretty well. I was actually kind of happy to see some of the other members of the Rider Club saying anything, because I felt that was one of the bigger issues with Fourze as it neared the end, is some of these characters I felt kind of just started to vanish, or they were T-Dog in season 2 of The Walking Dead. That's a reference I can make now.
I get it.
And so I was kind of happy that they got to do something in this movie. Like the triple dizer scene was a real joy. I'm not sure which satellite had the dizers, if it was the satellite or the shuttle they came in on, but the fun was there. Like I literally, I was just sitting there going like, they call them military powerizers, so I'm like, who owns them? Like,
yeah, even Jake got to do his hip hop keto, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm guessing that they were on the XV2 because we've never seen them again. So that was kind of fun, but I didn't think that this thing crossed a line too far. And I think it was again like, and I have a thing I can talk about, but I was very much chalking a lot of that up to the directing of it, like keeping everything in this certain visual mood. I think it really helped out. Like if this was directed a la Superhero Taisen with its boring ass shots everywhere, like I would have been right where I was with like I forgot which episode it was, but when the Den-O trilogy happened, there was one episode in particular that I just found like was tremendously boring. And and when the Imogen would show up, or you know the Den-O humor would show up, that plus boring directing just leaves me kind of like stone faced.
Was it episode Red?
Was that the Zeranos one? That could have been it, because I haven't seen it. I haven't seen that one in a while, but I remember that when I finished episode Red, I was like, man, I like him, and I didn't feel anything during all of this. So yeah, as far as the silliness goes, like I thought it all kept it on the line. It wasn't subdued by any means, but nothing stuck out to me as out of character levels of silliness. So yeah, in that regard, that's how I feel.
IGADEVIL, what do you feel about the levels of stupid versus silly?
Well, I think the stupid versus silly thing, it depends on how you define each one. Like where does, what's the line? When does it cross over from being, oh, this is goofy and fun, to this is just stupid. And I think I have a very high tolerance for that, because something like, I'm sure by now, has everyone seen, in the last couple episodes of Wizard, there was the arc with Beelzebub. And
I'm way behind on it,
okay.
But I don't mind. Like I'm so behind, I don't think I can pull anything.
Okay, and when Wizard uses the Excite ring, the one where he hulks up, basically.
Oh, that was awesome.
Yeah,
I thought that was one of the greatest things ever. Like I was just laughing on the floor. It was, he turns into this big guy, and he's beating guys up, and then he's like, "This is great." I just thought that was really funny. I can see how some people though would see that and be like, what the hell? That what's this big mess of CGI in my Kamen Rider? And
over here.
Yeah, Excite was not a popular ring. I mean, for me, I just kind of had no reaction to it. Wizard does that more than it should. I could see how it would be a tone break for some people, though.
Yeah. So I guess it just depends on where that line is for you. And for me, Fourze could get away with a lot, because I think it's that the show, it was probably, I would say, it's the most lighthearted Rider show overall. Like even more than Den-O, actually, because to me,
totally.
Den-O always had a very serious story running underneath it, that didn't come to the fore all the time, but I mean, it was always there, and the implications of what the bad guys were doing, I thought, were pretty heavy duty, and really, I think it has one of the most horrific ideas in Kamen Rider, which is that when people are destroyed by the Imogen going back and messing with time and all that they can literally disappear and be forgotten about, and especially when they got into the episodes with Climax form and all that, and how Ryotaro was going to lose his friends and everything. I thought it was really, really strong stuff, and Fourze did that. But I think it was always a little bit more lighthearted, just overall.
Yep, I never got a sense of danger in Fourze.
Fourze almost verges on being the kind of thing I expect from Sentai, so obviously I'm okay with that. I watch Sentai every year pretty much. But I know that there's a lot of people in the Western fan base who like Rider and not Sentai so much, and I do wonder if that had to do with Fourze's kind of tepid reception over here.
There's a documentary I'm going to be posting up next week, but you'll probably see it by now if you're listening to this. I forget his name. I'll post it up. But anyway, he posted up a documentary about like tokusatsu and Kamen Rider, and Ishinomori's initial intention when he made Kamen Rider. which would be to make it a horror that scared children, but also make it a children's show. And that's what initially I loved about it. Like when I first popped in my HK DVD of Kamen Rider Ryuki, it blew me away how horrific it was. Like B-movie horror that's a children's show and has all these action elements and bright costumes. And I'm not liking lately that it's really lost its horror element. It's becoming more and more like Super Sentai, which I guess, you probably shouldn't be horrifying little children, so it makes sense. But Kamen Rider Fourze is like the biggest problem I'm starting to have with Kamen Rider, with taking away the horror angle of it. And
yeah, I mean, I think you could even say that for Sentai too. I mean, it's actually kind of funny to think that there's now this expectation that Sentai is supposed to be less intense than Kamen Rider when you go back to the 80s and 90s. And I think Sentai could be very intense in terms of the violence.
Jetman. Anyway.
Oh no, Sentai. What really happened with Sentai was Sugimura's turn on the show just completely changed everything, because he shot for such a younger audience, I think, than Hirohisa Soda did. And once you had shows like Kaku Ranger and Car Ranger, there was really kind of no going back. I think an unfortunate truth when you're dealing with the Japanese market of the past couple decades is just that light stuff and comedy is much easier to sell.
Yeah.
All right. Going back to the movie. How about that Black Knight? He got wasted unceremoniously. That was not. I kind of liked his aesthetic, his design.
That was a bummer.
And
he was cool.
To get into that. Oh, sorry. To get into that, you really kind of got to talk about the villains as a whole, and that's actually where I will probably agree with Craig. Believe it or not, I had some problems with the villains in this movie.
Do tell.
Okay, well, for those who don't know, the villains in the Fourze movie are based off of old Ishinomori characters called Space Iron Man Kyodan.
And were they good guys?
They were good guys, yes. That was a show in 1976, I believe. And it was about these two sort of brother robot guys who are actually kind of copies of guys from Earth. It's a very interesting show because it's very lighthearted, very silly, very wacky, but it again has like this great kind of ongoing epic story to it.
I don't want to interrupt Paul, but would you say that there's any truth to something that I've read a few places, that Fourze is kind of almost considered more inspired by Kyodan than even earlier works in the Rider franchise?
I would agree with that, actually. I would agree with that a lot, especially visually, with Cosmic States. I mean, his head is very similar to the original Skydane. And, yeah, the tone, I think, is pretty similar. I mean, Fourze is interesting.
Kyodan was brothers, not brother and sister?
Yeah, it was two brothers.
Yep.
Okay.
Kind of the joke there is, as has been explained to me by some of the translators I hang out with, there's 4 different ways to write Kyodai in Japanese, and how you write it indicates the gender of the siblings involved.
Yes.
So...
Yeah.
All right.
Actually, Paul, I was going to ask you about that. The guy, the fact that the Skydine was clumsy when she was in female form, and the guy on the roller skates, was that like a carryover from the original show?
Not really, because in the original show, the red guy, Skydane, he was the older brother, and kind of the leader one, and then the younger one, Groundane. I mean, they were both pretty serious characters, and actually the comic relief was this character called Gombez, who is in this movie, the sort of like mass drone robots that they fight with the yellow heads, like the saucer looking guys. They are based on Gombez, who was the comic relief sidekick character to them. But
oh, you're right.
Yeah,
I didn't pick that up.
Yeah, I mean, and that's sort of the thing. My main problem, I guess, is that they did a really good job of carrying over elements from the original characters into these ones. Like when they transform at the end, and they're talking and everything, and it looks very goofy, but that's very true to how in the original show they could turn into a jet or a rocket or a car, and then they'd sort of go into like puppet mode where they'd be talking really crazily. And so,
kind of like
yeah,
that.
and that was already cool. And Black Knight, he was a character from the original show. He was a really like long-term villain.
He was a major villain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Inga Blink, actually, her name is an anagram of the main villain from that show. So going into the movie,
Awesome.
I was really kind of interested to see, what is she going to turn out to be? And ultimately, I think just my problem is that they did this really great tribute to Kyodyne and to another show, Daitetsujin 17. That's where the giant robot comes from. But they don't really do anything deeper with them. They're just the bad guys. And I understand why. I know that people have said, well, they're supposed to be different characters and everything. They're similar but not the same. But it just feels like, man, this would have been such a good chance to do a bit more with these characters. And actually, that's one of the areas where I think the next movie, Ultimatum, really improved over this one. Is that?
Oh, thank goodness!
Yeah,
that was my big worry about Ultimatum.
Hallelujah.
In some ways it does. In some ways it doesn't. And I just feel, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see because actually, I mean, it's already been pretty well known that Kyodyne, they're going to return in Superhero Taisen Z, and in what capacity I don't know exactly. But I almost feel like if somebody at Toei thought, we should have done more with these guys because they made these really nice suit designs, and honestly, I mean, usually, I'm one of the guys that tends to prefer the original version and everything, but I like these takes a lot, and I'd like to see them more in action. I'm really excited to get the figure arts coming out this month, and
they're out this month already?
They're coming out in March.
I thought they came and went by now, actually, and yeah, those designs are fantastic, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they fit in with Space Shocker.
Yeah.
Well, I think that they were a visual feast. The whole Utsu Tetsujin no Yatsu bit of this movie was a visual feast. Like the three of them, and the effects of how the human forms turned into the true robot forms. The whole transformation sequence, even I thought looked really like the visual side of them was fantastic. The acting side of them I even kind of got into, and I agree. I thought they were, at the end of the day, kind of wasted. Black Knight especially, because I think Black Knight was the biggest visual feast of this movie for me. Just in that whole opening act, the way that his wire work effects were done and stuff, and the machine gun stuff, like especially that moment when he basically stands up by activating the thrusters on his back, and the acting in that suit actor did a fantastic job. And then they throw in this one moment of him like nodding at Inga, and I'm like, oh, is there something more here? And then he gets blown up, and that's about it. And I was like, well, and I'm like, why wasn't he affected by the cosmic radiation? Who activated him? How did he stay tied to Inga? And I very much agree with the notion that the antagonist side, the whole Space Iron Man side of this was a little bit throwaway. And I already am very hesitant about the idea of using those classic characters as villains, because I think it's something you got to do right. Like the only other time I can remember it, and I did like it that time, was in the Hokkaido movie, and that was, I thought, just a really cool like visual symbolic role reversal thing. And in this case, I kind of felt left wanting, and when I saw the solicits of like Akumizer 3 are going to be the villains of the next Rider movie, I was like, oh man, I don't know how I feel about this trend. But I can't speak to their role in that yet because I haven't seen it.
Lynxara, what'd you think of the villains?
I'm kind of two minds about it. In the actual movie, if you just go off the movie's depiction, they do come off as fairly two-dimensional, maybe even one-dimensional. But if you bring in the context of knowing who these characters were originally, I think that adds a layer to it. I feel like the film is trying to revisit the old Ishinomori trope where the heroes are built to be evil, and there's some accident or exception that either shows them that humans are good or that actually affects their brains so they can think for themselves. My impression of what happened in this film is that you sort of begin with what should be the Kyodyne origin. As I've read about it, I haven't actually been able to watch the show, which makes me a little sad. In the show, there's, I think, an accident that happens that makes them go from robots being programmed for evil to robots who decide to act on behalf of humans. And in this movie, what we're seeing is the opposite. They were robots programmed for good, but then there's an accident that makes them turn on humans. So, like the deal with Black Knight and Inga is just Black Knight represents what the Kyodyne were supposed to be. And what I'm kind of hoping is that this arc will be continued in Superhero Taisen 2, and maybe they will undergo some kind of accident that either, gives them their own moral consciousness or makes them, cognizant of both good and evil. Because the movie's take on them is clearly that they are just completely evil, they are completely opposed to humans, and there's no, Gentarou can make friends with XV2. XV2 is morally neutral. It's like a person. But for the Kyodyne, they have just become completely the antithesis of what humans are. And so they are just an enemy that he has to go all out and fight. And there's not even a chance of a compromise. And I thought that was interesting given that Gentarou comes to some kind of understanding with almost every other enemy he fights. I think even Libra, for as much of a complete jerk as that guy turns out to be, Gentarou at least feels like he understands him. But the Kyodyne simply cannot be understood. They are not human. They just want to kill everyone because they just want to kill everyone.
By the end of it, I was really loving that. I love myself some irredeemable bad guys where the good guy does not have to hold back and just has to completely waste because they are no good and they're going to destroy all of humanity. So there's no... I just like that simple, good and evil, let's take them down. But, Craig, what'd you think of the bad guys?
The bad guys I actually thought were one of the better parts of the movie. I really liked both designs. I thought they were really cool. I liked the big spaceship, at least visually. I thought that was really neat. And I'll agree with Chris. I think the transformation from the human forms into the robot forms was one of the better effects in the movie. I actually thought the visual effects in this were really inconsistent. Sometimes they were really nice, and sometimes they sucked. The transformation into the robot forms, and then there's right after they did it, their robot forms kind of, I don't know, flex, for lack of a better word.
The moving parts.
They move out and then sort of clock back in. I thought that was really nice.
That's so cool.
But then conversely, you had visual effects like the helicopter getting outside the...
I think the helicopter was easily the worst part of the movie for me. Visually, that was terrible.
Isn't that like a consistent Koichi joke now?
That's a Sakamoto thing. Sakamoto just hates helicopters. So he always puts them in the movies, and they always get just unceremoniously obliterated within a few seconds of showing up.
Starting with the double premiere, and then was it the A to Z movie, and then
always helicopters.
Always helicopters.
Sakamoto hates helicopters, and he likes short skirts or something. I don't know.
But I thought the villains were pretty good. I wasn't as keen on them when they changed into their vehicle modes, just because I thought the Groundizer looked alright, but I wasn't a big fan of Skydyne. Groundyne.
I think the vehicle modes very much hinge upon whether or not you knew the homage going in, because I looked at them and I think there's an episode or two of this show somewhere on like Daily Motion or something like that, like the old Kyodyne show. I don't recall, but I know I'd seen some clips of it, and having seen that before seeing this, I totally bought the vehicle forms, but you have to see like the vehicle forms, the whole way they're delivered in their original show is like delightfully ludicrous. Like right down to like contained television monitors in their heads or chests or something with like the actor's face on them and stuff like that. It's cray.
Man.
Well, these were,
it's delightfully cray.
These were sadly just ludicrous, or at least I thought so. Although I wanted to touch on something you guys were talking about before with Black Knight. He was great. Mm-hmm. He was probably him and the girl whose name eludes me, Inga? Was that the main female?
Yeah.
Him and Inga were my favorite part of the movie by a great degree. I thought they were great. Aside from the fact that Inga is smoking hot, she was also a really decent actress, and she was good in the fight scenes. I really bought everything she was selling. I really wish I thought that sentence through more carefully. But also,
dear.
But Black Knight was also great, and I agree with you, Chris, about the effects of the jets. Like, they were what you expected XL Booster to be, like the way that the jets propel him forward and around. And yeah, the one where he got Fourze actually beat him, or quote unquote beat him, and his eyes
in
went
the
out.
warehouse.
Yeah, and then he gets back up.
Yeah,
that was so cool.
Oh, that was so.
The thruster back up. Yeah,
that was really, really cool.
The woman who played Skydyne, is she been anything else? Because she looked familiar.
It's Deca Yellow, right?
Yeah, I thought
I
it was
think
one
so.
of the Deca Rangers.
I think so.
All right, cool.
I couldn't remember if it was yellow or pink. I haven't watched enough, but I thought it was a Deca Ranger. And actually, I'm going to go into one of the things I really did like. One of the other better points in the movie. Every fight scene was fantastic.
God, yes.
The way that they used Fourze's switches and media using his planet thing on his arm. I'd forgotten he had that. It had been so long since he'd used it in the show and everything. And I always thought that was one of the best features. I remember when I first saw it and he used, was it Mars or Saturn he used first? I don't remember. But whichever one he used first, I remember seeing it and going, oh, that's freaking cool. I want it. And I'm still upset that we don't have an effects part set for media that's all of the planets on his arm.
Or a roleplay toy of those Moonraker guns that they had. Do you guys remember what Moonraker is?
Oh yeah,
the James Bond
vaguely.
movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the James Bond. Every time I saw those guns, I was like, "Whoa, those are nice." Is there any way I can get a replica of one of those? Because, yeah, like the fight scenes were fantastic. They were cut so well together. Like, you'd go from Ryusei doing the unmorphed Bruce Lee fighting against Inga to seeing like the usual people you don't see in action just gunslinging away like pros, and it was fantastic.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I was happy to see that Kengo has overcome his inability to move or do anything exerting before he collapses. That sure was good that he got over that just in time for this movie.
It was all the training. That's a training montage. They're like, hey, listen, you need to just use an inhaler. And he's like, oh, okay.
All this time, it was asthma?
What you
really?
have is called asthma. He's like, no, it's cosmic asthma. Really? Oh, hey, I can do fight scenes.
Keep me back that
this is one of the things I really wanted to talk about. Was I went into this movie, and every time I go into a new Sakamoto movie, it's growing every time. I talked about it on Twitter when I watched the Raw. I'm always worried that this is going to be the one where I get sick of him. Because ever since 2009 now, with that Ultraman movie, I've been watching like at least one or two movies of his every year, really enjoying them. And the problem is he's still like the only nameable toku director I can think of outside of stuff related to Garo. And so, like, at Toei, he's, like, the one I think of. And it's starting to get me worried that eventually I'm going to hit this wall with him. And then this movie, every time I watch one of his new movies, there's always something in the first 15 minutes that just, like, grabs me by the face. And I go, like, oh, he is still the friggin' creative genius I know he is. Like, he always thinks of something new. And something that really gets me in there. Like, number one, the opening fight scene was really cool. But it was, like, just that moment when Black Knight righted himself with his jets, and then later on in the warehouse, Span righted himself with his jets. I was watching that, and then when Fourze does the same thing, when he hops off the bike, and it's a piece of wire work to make him basically jetpack off his bike, he kind of lands, hops and steps, and just goes right into a swagger, walking up to Inga, demanding to know what's going on. Those particular moments, all in the first act of the movie, I was like, you've got me just locked right in. Like I am renewed in my Sakamoto faith because I'm still seeing new ideas from him, and I think that's what is so key about Sakamoto when you name drop him in this stuff is that I feel everything I've seen, he's had at least one or two just completely new ideas that I haven't seen before. That are always directly tied to the fictional equipment of the series in question. Like that whole scene with Fourze using the switches, that was like the answer to I forgot. if it was with you guys or with Nerdsphere, where we were doing a Fourze. I think it was Nerdsphere. We did a Fourze roundtable, and I was saying like one of my biggest problems with Fourze as a series was I felt that the Astro switches never hit that moment of dramatic timing that the memories and the medals hit. And this was the finally the time where I was like, the switches are being banged on and banged off, and it's all in time. Nothing's stopping to show me the switches going in and out. And
I gotta say, like, really quick, on that, I was loving the Fourze action finally. Like, most of the way through the series, and most of the time, even with the previous Sakamoto movies, I always hated how clumsy the wire work and the thrusters were. Like, it was just like he just was barely pulling it off and didn't practice ever. And it was just frustrating to see him kind of flop about using whatever tool he was using. And here, finally, like, it's like he's been practicing this entire time, that he finally got down how much thruster to you to not over flop about. Like, he still was a little off balance, but he could finally handle it and was like a pro when he was like pushing one of the robots against the wall, kicks it, has the Gatling gun firing, and also firing off his fist at the same time. I was like, that's how you do
it. And the other one I liked was when he's riding at the Black Knight, and he's got Gatling on his leg and shield, and he's using shield to block the shots and firing Gatling off the side from the motorcycle. Yeah, the use of switches in this was way better.
I meant Magnet with launcher and Gatling.
Yeah.
And then he's just like full fire, and I'm like, holy he should have been. That is a really logical thing to do with all that stuff. Now he's like, because he basically turns into like a 4-cannon artillery unit on legs.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is so sensible. That's fantastic. It was cool.
You know, more love of fighting, the Koichi Sakamoto ballet fighting. He always has to get that in there. Love that.
Oh yeah. No, and I my trepidation with Sakamoto is just because I enjoy his stuff so much. It just always worries me that now almost 4 years in, like 3.5 years in to really getting into him, I'm still not into another Toei director as much, and I really hope in the next year or two, like, another face comes up that's just as memorable, because I don't want to get sick of Sakamoto, but when he's like the one name drop I keep making, it starts to get me a little worried. And I certainly don't feel any diminishing of how much I enjoy his stuff. As hopefully I made clear, like, this movie, and every time I see a movie of his, it always just kind of renews me for him. I'm excited to see the next thing he's working on.
And from Power Rangers to The Prophecy 2, anybody see that?
No.
It's Prophecy 2. It was almost like a television pilot about some son of a angel and a mortal, and the forces of hell are sent to Earth to kill him because they don't want him uniting humanity or something like that. It was a fantastic movie, and he did the action on that. So, like, yeah, he's been doing fantastic action that I've never been tired of, from Power Rangers to The Prophecy to ...
In Prophecy 2, does someone get kicked and they fly in on a canting camera angle and then tumble across the ground?
Someone kicks an angel into, like, a wall, and he breaks a pipe while the guy's in midair and launches it at the guy, and the last thing you see is the guy pinned to the wall with the pipe in his chest.
So every time I see a Sakamoto setup, I always sit there, and I'm sitting there trying to figure out how Sakamoto, from literally nothing, comes up with some of those ideas, like, especially with, like, power mixing, like in Fourze, where I'm just like, you can't just sit there on the day and go like, oh, we should put these 3 switches on them, let's do the shot. Like, you gotta pre-plan that stuff heavily, especially with things like when he had the wheel switch on, or when he has hopping on. It's like, that's a full-on CG shot. And so I'm sitting there and I'm just like, man, like, the creativity this dude has and how much enthusiasm I feel in what he's doing is so inspiring, and I still really like him.
What I find pretty interesting about Sakamoto, actually, is that we're still seeing this guy pretty early in his career. He hasn't peaked yet. I don't think we're close to him peaking. When I watch his stuff now, it reminds me a lot of going back and watching what Keita Amamiya was doing on Metal Hero back in the late 80s, where he just seems to have some new crazy idea for how to express what the fiction is about in every single show. And having watched like the 20 years of shows that Amamiya has been doing, he's never stopped. He's never gotten tired. He has never run out of ideas. Tokusatsu doesn't produce a lot of creators on that level, but I think Sakamoto may be the next one. Because
I certainly hope so.
He did a Metal Hero show, Keita Amamiya?
He did a lot of Metal Hero. I know he worked on Metalder, I believe. And I know
Was
he
he the
did some
showrunner?
very noteworthy work on Jaban.
Was he the showrunner for those, like Jetman?
I don't recall off the top of my head if he was the head director. He might have been the head director on Metalder. I think that might have been the show that put him on the map. For Jaban, I think he was doing a lot of the creature designs and effects work. In that era of Metal Hero, I think he shows up doing some work on effects in almost every show, and you can really feel it because there's a lot of practical effects and a lot of really creative use of like puppetry and other things to do non-standard kind of creatures.
And I'm seeing Tokuzilla has subtitled Metalder, the series.
Wait, really?
So I think I know where I'm going next.
I've wanted to watch Metalder for like a good 2 years
Those
straight.
are probably the Deadfish subs, but Deadfish's stuff is pretty solid from what I've seen. So yeah, it should be perfectly enjoyable.
More
Oh man,
yeah. All right.
I watched the first episode of Metalder subtitled, and I loved it. And then I just never had time to track down any other ones.
Metalder is amazing. There's a reason why when people are talking about Metal Hero in that period, it's just, oh my god, you have to see Metalder.
Sold. I mean, yeah, if it's Keita Mamiya, that guy has not missed with me yet. Go ahead, Vangelus.
I don't want to tangent it too much harder, but like the first episode of Metalder to me was such a departure just from the classic templates of the first episode of a Toku show. It's really worth checking out.
Yay!
And the design is super cool too.
We haven't heard from IGADEVIL in a while about stuff that we loved in the movie or that you didn't like.
Well, yeah, I do want to touch on action, but actually, I kind of want to go back a little bit to something Vangelus mentioned about the Hokkaido movie and how it did that role reversal where the bad guy at the end looked like Kikaider. And that's sort of what this movie was doing, I think, because you had Black Knight, who was originally a villain, is actually not that bad, and Kyodai are evil. And then with the giant robot XV7, he's based on a character called Daitetsujin 17, who had his own show. And the central computer that they go to find is almost exactly a replica of the main bad guy from that show called Brain. It was this big computer with all the different kind of like the molecule-looking tendrils and things like that. So they really were kind of going for this role reversal thing, I think, with the heroes and the villains. And
what I find interesting, though, is that just looking at the themes in Hokkaido, the role reversals, that clearly goes back to the writer, because Hokkaido is Amamiya and Toshiki Inoue, and I think those guys did a lot of their best work together. Inoue loves his moral relativism and showing that a lot of times the reason why we think someone is a hero or a villain is just because of the point of view that the show presents to us. So Hokkaido's really an exercise in showing you that this guy could be the same character but still come off as the hero just by changing the point of view on the action. In Everybody at Spacetime, I feel like the theme that they're going for is tragedy. I think there's the idea that even if you don't necessarily know all this stuff about Kyodai, you should still see it as a loss that the siblings have to be destroyed, that no one can really think of a way to redeem them. Because to some extent we've seen Black Knight and we know that they could have been like him.
yeah.
I totally see where you're coming from, and I somewhat agree. I think that they especially went for that when they had the two of them kind of like, you know, right before they were blown up, kind of like start reaching out to each other as kind of like this whole sibling, like, help me out a little bit, kind of body language. And I think that what I felt was missing from that was primarily another layer to Black Knight to give a better look at the other side of the coin. I think that kind of reducing him to what appeared to be an automaton ended up diminishing a lot of that parallel that I was looking for.
Yeah.
And
I really
think
wonder
that,
if the director's cut, when we get the extra 20 minutes of footage, if that's going to be the rest of Black Knight's little characterization showing up there.
I very much hope so, because it certainly it doesn't all lie on his shoulders, but I felt that in the parallel they were going for, that was the biggest gap in the armor, was that Black Knight, there was, like, with the Kyodai, you can do like the smallest amount of research and just see how they're delivered and kind of get the message. With Black Knight, you have to kind of go digging a little bit deeper, I found, to kind of get why he's in the movie. And I feel like they could have just gone a little bit farther with that. And even in the theatrical cut, I feel like if that had been more of the focus, and if there had been a lot less focus placed on finding the 40 previous episodes worth of characters to give switches to, that would have that was my biggest problem with the overall movie in terms of its structure, was that sequence. And I watched it and I kind of thought about it, and I was just thinking, like, if that time had been balanced out and some of that time had just been devoted to Black Knight, like even just another 5 minutes, it could have really pumped up the actual plot underneath all of the gorgeous visuals I was seeing.
I was surprised that they just dispatched him. Like, there wasn't even like a grand sacrifice. Like, he was he was a beautiful character. I assume they put a lot of money into that, and he just stepped up and got taken down. Yeah, and all Inga really said, like, she had maybe 2 lines of just being annoyed, and then she kind of just forgot about it, and that was really bummed me out. I was hoping there'd at least be more of a sense of loss there. Yeah, like you'd find like the head, in the ship, and like he's like, "Are you guys okay?" And like, "We're okay." Like something. They're like,
or have Inga like at least have her. I don't know. Like, I don't think she needed to like break down and start crying or anything, but I felt like there wasn't enough of a sense of loss from her, from what clearly was like this partner she's had for a while.
She said
also,
no
like, I don't know if you want to. Yeah, she goes like, "Oh no," and then she's like, "I'm gonna get them for killing him," but then like that was it.
What?
And
Anyway, better run.
I was hoping. Yeah, I was hoping for just something more out of that. I also have more I wanted to mention about the 40 switches thing, but I don't know if that's relative to put in right now. Like I can wait a bit.
Oh, don't worry, I've got plenty to say on that.
We'll get to that.
I mean, okay, go for it. You can definitely hit another point.
But yeah, I think I guess when I was watching it the first time, I was expecting, they're gonna do something where it'll be like Black Knight will reveal, he'll suddenly talk because he doesn't speak the whole movie, and he'll be like, I was leading you guys here because I wanted to get the Kyodai back, and it was gonna be something like where we're going into the movie knowing that he was a villain originally, and then to find out that he's actually working with them or something, or he wants to make them evil, or I kind of thought he would have a bigger role in the end than, to just be punked out like that. Just kind of sacrifice himself.
I cannot feel love. Why can I feel pain?
Yeah.
Oh, you want to talk about that kind of thing? We'll talk about Gray and Jetman. Like, he wants to hold a woman and make her warm, but he can't because he has a cool body. Wow.
Oh, Gray is the best character in Jetman. No one will ever convince me otherwise. Oh, I love that guy.
What?
Okay,
sorry. Let's get back to
coming off of just to go off the robot. I do want to say I really liked what little we got to see of XV2, and I couldn't place why until I looked at who played his voice, and that was friggin' Wolzard, man. That was, and Wolzard has like he has like the manliest voice in all of Japan. So having that come out, like I remember when I watched it in Raw, I was really just taken in by XV2's voice actor, and I was like, who is this? And then when I watched it again today, I looked it up afterwards. I was like, "Oh, it's Wolzard! Of course, he's the dude who can like say a bunch of like made up, slightly Japanese magical gibberish and make it sound badass." So I was really into that.
I'm going down my list of things I didn't like too far, but I did think that the Gentarou's one of the things I didn't like was Gentarou's like willing to put everything and Earth in jeopardy to save this computer, and even the computer's like. Really? Because I'm going to blow up everything. We should probably...
He's like, yeah.
Even the computer was like, this is not a great plan.
I thought that was kind of touching, though. Like, the way that they did it. It felt like an action that was, like... It was almost a super robot story sort of action of... and I felt that it worked in tandem with there being a giant robot. Of, like, I'm just going to friggin' come out here, and I'm going to just push you out of the way. And then he does, and I don't know, that really worked for me.
That scene where he like burns out the switches, teleporting him out of Lyman and into the moon was fantastic. It was great.
Yeah, I thought he was.
That was probably the high point of the movie for me, actually, because it was so unexpected, but so really relevant to what that character's about.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was simply him pushing the robot off course so that it would miss.
Exactly.
All of a sudden the portal appeared. And then that epic crash into the moon. I was like, wow.
Yeah. No, it was. I thoroughly enjoyed that scene. That was great. But there was other stuff I didn't like.
Well, before we get to that,
What else did you like, Craig? Kidding.
before we get on to that, I did want to talk about the action, which I agree with everyone else was very good. I did think it was interesting that they had basically what I would consider sort of the big fight scene, like the major kind of crowd-drawing fight scene, about a third of the way into the movie, and that's the one against the horoscopes, where he uses all the switches, and then Wizard shows up. I mean, in previous films, you don't get the guest rider until the final battle. So that was interesting that they did that, and it was different. And I kind of liked it, but I do wonder if it's like you go through that sequence, and then you still got the rest of the movie. I don't know. What did you guys think about that?
There's actually so much action in this movie that when I finished it, I was like, that was fun. Wow, I'm kind of tired. Because,
Wizard,
because like once you have the big 40 switches fight, from that point on, there's hardly any scenes that aren't either action scenes or directly setting up action scenes.
No, but I agree with Paul. I think that was the best fight. And then, so everything after that was kind of... It never quite held up to that fight. And that's one of the reasons that I wasn't as keen on this movie was, that fight was great. And then as it keeps going,
I liked that fight, but it was essentially plotless. It was just, oh wow, this is going to be the big bash fest where, we're just going to spend a chunk of our movie budget on showing you what Fourze would look like if we had infinite budget. And it was a lot of fun, and I loved it, but there is not a narrative to that fight. It's purely indulgent, and it's wonderful and fun, but like all the other fights in the movie, they actually have some narrative weight. So I feel like they even out. I think we could have stood to have some more downtime, so the fights could breathe a little bit more, and I suspect when we get the director's cut, most of that 20 minutes is going to be downtime.
Yeah.
God, there's 20 more minutes?
I gotta say, I like that fight, but my favorite fight was the one at the ending fight.
Yeah, I would say so too.
Awesome, dazzling display of colors on the screen with the ground dine, sky dine, and then the background of the spaceship, and all the kicks and flashes and the great choreography was just a dazzle to see.
Well, it was a fight on the moon that really felt like a fight on the moon, and to pull that off on Toei's budget, that's almost more of a technical triumph than just, hey, this is what the switches would all look like if we had more money per episode.
And the finisher where, you see the earth in the background, the drill hits the ground, he spins out, stands, and then does a final kick with, the earth, silhouette. It was amazing. But one other thing, Wizard. That was weird. He's kind of... He acted kind of, impish.
It's definitely not his TV personality, but given how weird the writing situation for Wizard is, I just wonder if that's maybe how Haruto was supposed to be, and then for the TV show he ended up being toned down a little bit. Because this scene with Wizard would have been filmed, I think even possibly before TV production had actually gotten into full swing.
Well, that wasn't his voice, was it? It didn't sound like
No,
Haruto.
that was him.
Really?
It's just... I suspect that it was one of the first times he had played the character, and he just didn't have a handle on him yet.
They're doing a different
I didn't even
effect
think it was him.
on his voice.
I'm pretty sure it was him. I know that when I did the credit list, the guy who plays Haruto's face actor has a credit for the movie. So.
Oh, I believe you. I'm stunned. It did. I heard him talk, and I was watching it with Nikki, and we were just like, I guess they hadn't cast Haruto yet when they did this, and I was really surprised.
The guy who plays Haruto is a really good performer. I think the show criminally underuses him, given how just flat Wizard scripts are, and I think that's why you could see that kind of range out of him. It really makes me want to see. I forget the performer's name. I feel bad about. But I'd love to see that guy show up in another tokusatsu where he could just try to be a different kind of character, because I think he has the right kind of range and delivery for this kind of stuff.
I think a similar vocal quirk happens on a lot of those in-movie writer debuts, because I remember that, at least in Double's case, when he first showed up, I thought there were a lot of extra effects on his voice.
Yeah.
At least in the theatrical.
Oh yeah,
and
Double
when I heard
didn't
it, I
feel
was
like
like
the same character at all.
Like, he didn't sound anything. Yeah, like just vocally, there were so many effects on both their voices. It was
in the Decade
I think
movie?
I wonder if it's almost like in the theatrical of it. I almost wonder if there's like an imperative of like adding that in as a sense of preserving the mystery of revealing this new character. It's like, we're going to put a big effect over the voice, and so you won't really entirely know who this is.
Because like when AG shows up in A to Z, that's just AG, almost exactly as he would be in the show. And I haven't seen, I think I've seen like a clip of Gentarou's debut, but it didn't strike me as out of line with what they do with him in the TV show.
Oh,
no, and this one was interesting.
Not writing wise, but sorry,
go ahead, Craig.
I was going to say this one was interesting that when we introduced O's, we got to see AG, the actor playing AG. When we introduced Fourze, we got to see the actor playing Fourze. But Wizard, they went back to the way they did it in Double. We didn't actually get to see Haruto. And I assume that's because, like, they hadn't finalized the look of what he was going to... Like, Haruto's visual style or something. Because Gentarou looks like Gentarou when he appears in the O's movie. And AG looks like AG when he appears in the Double movie. But, yeah, there was no Haruto, and I was a bit bummed out by that. Maybe that's because I'm a big fan of Wizard.
Also, Wizard didn't know the word Kamen Rider. Thought that was weird.
I liked that, though. That's such a good compromise, going from Wizard doing kind of the old style, we don't call them riders, but you know what they are, to more what the Cicada shows do, where everyone talks about Kamen Rider and what it means and what it embodies constantly.
I absolutely agree.
Does he call himself Kamen Rider in Wizard?
No. He is in Wizard. Anyone who has powers is a Mahosakai, so I guess like a mage, a spellcaster.
So that's some interesting and a pretty nice consistency there. It's like, he doesn't know what Kamen Rider is. He's like, no, I'm Wizard, but if you want to call me that, Kamen Rider Wizard.
Yeah, and I like how Meteor has the thing that I always liked about Double, where he's like, you can't just call yourself, and then, like, you know, Gentarou like, yo, just calm down.
Yeah.
He's cool, bro, man. Just chill.
To comment on Ryusei for a second, that goes into another one of my list of complaints. I get... Okay, this goes into the timing of movies, which I know in Kamen Rider, where the movies fit into the timeline is always a bit on the grey side, let's say. But I assume... I mean, this was after the teacher knows who they are and everything. This has to be in the mid to high 40s, right? Because there's all 12 horoscopes. We got to see Aquarius.
I want to say people have said that it takes place, like, right before the last 4 episodes.
Okay. Ryusei, at that point, hadn't he stopped hiding his identity? Hadn't he...
He did. I think that in the movie, because I was wondering about that, in the movie he's not hiding it from any of the club, but when he mentions I can transform in front of them, I think that it's like... He's still trying to keep it secret from their enemies, who he is.
Because I was a bit like... One of the notes I have here is Ryusei's risking everyone's lives by not henshining. And he does that a couple of times. There's a couple of points where I'm like, dude, put the belt on. Like, on the bus, he's fighting these guys off, but just barely. And then it's not until the 12 horoscopes show up that he's like, oh, I suppose I'd better use my superpowers. And then again on the satellite, he's holding them off, like, in hand-to-hand combat. And I'm like, you have a belt, man. Just put it on.
I didn't even notice that. So wait, did he wait until the bad guys weren't looking to transform?
Yes. Several times.
Oh, I thought it was just like the Power Ranger trope of never escalate the battle, so that, you know, you handle yourself as much as you can, and once you can't, then you transform. And, like, I love myself some, you know, unmorphed fighting, so I was like, yeah, dude, just do your Bruce Lee thing until you can't do it anymore.
Well, that's I thought it was until the all 12 horoscopes showed up, and then at the end, I thought that he was just not doing it because the Rider Club, like, either had just revealed it or something. I thought it was earlier on. But by that point in the series, I'm pretty sure he was just transforming wherever he freaking needed to. And because if it's the last 4, then that means that Virgo's identity had been revealed, right?
Yeah, it's definitely after that.
Because Virgo was the one who said you can't reveal who you are to anyone, or else I'll take away your powers. Like, you won't be able to transform if you show anyone that you're media. And so, by that point, that had already finished, and he was just transforming wherever he needed to. So to go back to him trying to keep it a secret, to me, just put everyone in... I'm like, just transform, dude. Just do it.
I wonder if...
I was like, keep fighting like Bruce Lee.
I think that was less the secret identity and more just that the guy who plays Ryusei is really good at doing his own fight scenes, so Sakamoto wanted to put him in a bunch of fight scenes.
So is
Speaking of
Gentarou.
Bruce Lee, did the Inga, did she half-inch punch him?
She does.
I'm pretty sure
but
she
not-
does, yes.
She does, but not
Okay,
properly.
cool.
That's not really how that works. Ryusei does it better in one of the last episodes of Fourze when he 1-inch punches Leo. He does it. It wasn't quite right, but that's just a nitpick. I'm not like saying that that's the downfall of the movie or anything.
That reminds me that Leo's one fight scene at the beginning, he has a freaking awesome kick combo he does on Inga, and it was like the coolest thing ever.
Where he doesn't put his foot back down, he just keeps kicks.
His fights with her were really, really good. I was worried she would not be presented as his equal just because of her gender, and no, movie did not go there. They just beat the shit out of each other until they could not beat each other no more, and it's like, you are a true fighter. Clearly we must ally. It was perfect martial arts stuff.
That was good.
I wonder if the reason that Ryusei is all worried about his identity and all that, if that's just got to do with the writing of the movie, like when it was written as opposed to when it was filmed, and whether or not they had decided, when is everyone going to know, when is he going to be okay with telling them.
Because it does seem like it's at least partially aware of where he was in the show at the time, so that could be a good point. Like maybe it was nailed down that the writer club all know who he is, and maybe they were still like, when this movie comes out, we're not entirely sure if he cares about whether the horoscopes know who he is. Like the timing could have entered into that. I could see that.
Yeah, that's true. It wasn't a big deal. The only reason it bothered me at all was that he was clearly risking lives by not doing it a couple of times. There was a couple of points where if he had just even when they're putting the bombs on the things, and we'll get into the bomb mechanics in a minute. But
like a video game.
But Fourze, Gentarou is Fourze when he's going through that sequence and uses Forze's powers to help him out. Media could have he doesn't. It's not about escalating the fight. It's not about honor. It's about the fact that they need to plant a bomb in a very short amount of time. And if he medias up, he'll beat that chick in about 7 seconds, and they can get on with it.
The thing that bugged me more about I know you said you want to go into the bomb sequence itself. The only thing I had about that was if those bombs are all actually going to synchronize when you turn the first one on, make sure you're all in place first.
Yes.
You left friggin' Tomoko with a ticking bomb strapped to her back, and when she put it on, there were 5 seconds left. I'm like, guys, you all have headsets on. What are you doing?
That
The
part was
Kamen Rider Club does not win many games of Left 4 Dead.
I was just like, the whole movie was kind of kicking Tomoko around, and that part was all like a kind of cherry on top of all right, so Tomoko's is kind of a non-entity in this movie, and now you all have just turned on a big block of C4 strapped in her stomach.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you're a Tomoko fan,
Sure.
this was not the movie for you. So I'm surprised that you liked it as much, Paul.
I know. Well, yeah, no, that's something I can agree with. Is that Tomoko does get kind of screwed over. I mean, I guess here's the thing. I saw this movie after watching the last episode, so I kind of already knew how things were going to turn out. And actually, that brings us to another point I want to ask Keith about later with the 40 Switch scene. But
well, do ask.
Oh.
Well, yeah, on Tomoko, she didn't get any action, did she?
Not really.
No, in fight training, all she did was go hey, show me how to punch. And then he's all like, oh, my stomach. And she's
I was waiting for that to come into play later, because I thought that she was going to be
sorry. She did have a scene. Her and
Yuki. Yuki, the ballet fighting.
Yeah. Sorry,
Okay.
yeah, she did have the one.
I was just like, yeah, she's the only person who didn't get a gun and start going off.
Yeah, she didn't have a good one, but she did have one. I think they were wise not to give Yuki a firearm as well. That's just... Whew. It's gun time! Space!
E-Devil, what were you going to ask me?
Oh,
about the
okay.
40?
Well, I guess we might as well get to it, which is the scene at the end when they're giving the switches to everyone, and Gamo steps up and saves the day. What did you think of that?
Yeah. Okay. I thought that was interesting.
I loved it. I loved it because it totally sets up what the ending's going to do. I was actually cheering.
Yeah.
I loved it.
It gave me a pleasant smile because it showed that because you have to be a genuine, you have to consider him a genuine friend for that to work, right?
Yeah.
So there's something to the villain, thinking that there's a friend out there that he believes in, which is cool. I'm still going to take you down, though, if you're going to kill everybody in the country. That's not going to change anything.
Before we
that's
go
cool
into,
that you think you have a friend.
Before we go into the full logistics of the scene, I don't know if this was just an overtime sub or not, but when they're going around saying, we need you to throw this switch, I swear, and I thought it was just me, but I was watching it with Nikki, my friend Nikki as well, and we both thought that they meant physically throw the switch into the air. And it was, I was like, why do you all have to throw the switch? I don't get it.
That's just wording. They like to be very precise with the term, and I think in the Fourze that Overtime did, it was switches were always thrown, even though, you're just hitting a button.
Yeah. And it just threw me for the whole time. I'm like, you need to throw this. And they're all like, okay. I'm like, no one's questioning why you're getting handed an object you're supposed to toss in the air simultaneously to everybody else? I don't get it. And then when they all flicked it, I went,
Alright. We hit the hour mark, and it's always safe to take a break here. You guys mind stopping for a bit?
Okay.
Alright then,
Sure.
We'll finish up our thoughts on Fourze after the break.
最後のピースが見つからない何が足りない何が曇らせる
人生の準備に不備などない運がないねまたそれ飲み込む
奇跡を
起こすというなら普通の
手段じゃ無理でしょ隠しの
本気度は試されてる
さあもう一度信じ合い
手をつなげ
宇宙を掴む息置いてコズミックコズミックコズミックライン無数の星
集める引力
コズミックコズミックコズミックライン
一人よりも
みんなで大規模ボルテ
最後に不可能超える
力はきっと絆イコールチョーキングフィニッシュ Show me a cosmic mind
形あるものはいつか必ず壊れるから諦めついても
目に見えなくても確かなもの失ったら諦めつかない
虚栄の
自分ではなくて本当の
心見せる仲間の
数は関係ないでも多い方がいい
常識を
超えるなら宇宙を掴もうみんなでコズミックコズミックコズミックマイン全ての星
巻き込んでくスケール
コズミックコズミックコズミックマイン
同じ願い
みんなで叫べばポシボル
最後の力は
月の戸は開く絆イコールチョーキングフィニッシュ
Fantastic as you
Just keep your hands strong Show me your cosmic mind 絆イコール賞金とフィニッシュ Show me a cosmic mind
And here we are on the other side. This episode brought to you by Sprecher Hard Root Beer, aged in bourbon barrels. It's root beer, but alcoholic at the same time. It's delicious and refreshing. Anyway, so what were we just talking about besides Superhero Tyson at the break, which was fantastic, and I think I finally convinced everyone that
Hey.
it was actually a
Hey,
masterpiece.
whoa.
I'm also lying. So. All right, where are we in the Fourze? During the break, Craig kept on mentioning how, you kept on saying how much stuff you liked.
Yeah, that's pretty much... Yeah, it was, except that I forgot... I wasn't getting to all the stuff I didn't like.
Okay, well, we were talking about the scene at the end, the everyone pushing switches.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay.
I thought that went on way too long. Actually, pushing the switches didn't bother me.
It was kind of laughable how long it went on,
Yes.
because they're trying to make it intercut with the fight. So were the Kyodyne just beating up
Yes.
Meteor for like 30 minutes when they were running
And
around
Jen.
school finding people?
That's
There's
exactly what I was saying.
There's this
Yeah.
one comedian joke where they keep on doing the same joke back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Anyway, it keeps on going on like that to the point where at first the audience laughs, then they start getting bored, then they kind of get annoyed, then they get mad. Then it keeps on going along for so long that people start laughing again, and it kind of goes on like that in a cycle, and that's what the switches was for me. I was just like, all right, okay, stop it. I can't believe they're going through all of them. Hilarious, this is kind of awesome. All right, I'm kind of done with this. Can they stop doing... I can't believe they're actually doing all... That's kind of cool. So
It didn't cycle back around for me, unfortunately.
Yeah,
like in the raw or subbed, I was just kind of like, okay. So the notion behind it, I thought was beautiful. It was really getting me worked up. But just the sheer amount of time spent on it was a brutal, just kidney punch to the flow of what was going on. And I agree. Cutting it with the fight scene just accentuated that. And because that scene to me was basically, the scene in A to Z when everyone's all like, "Kamen Rider!"
It's exactly
You know,
that scene. That's really what they wanted to do.
It was that scene, but dragged out to be 5 times as long. And I was just like, I was looking at it, I was like, I think what brought that about was some imperative to show everyone he's helped by face. And I think that if they hadn't done a single shot for every single character, like the way they almost did, like barring like 1 or 2 times where 2 people were on screen,
Yeah.
that's what really brought it down. Because there were some beautiful moments, like when the kickboxing teacher takes the moment to give Yuki a hug. I was
Yeah.
like, that's so heartwarming, and that should have been the end of it. Really, that should have been the pinnacle moment. But then it kept going on for just too long after that, and I was like, "Oh man!"
Because they could have skipped that and just had the whole 40 switches being thrown. That's pushing it already, but having them both in there, I did skip the handing out the switches thing the second time around, and also turning on the switch. I skipped it the second time around, but yeah, for me it was like, I can't believe they're doing all of it. Oh, I wish they'd stop. I can't believe they're doing all of it. So
Yeah, I think it went on too long, but I think this comes back to something that Chris was saying earlier about the fight scenes and how you very rarely saw Fourze use all the switches properly. The biggest problem was that the gimmick itself had too many elements. Like 40 switches is too many, and I think that I don't think we'll ever see that many in a Rider show, at least not for a while, because I think even
imagine if Wizard did it.
I think even they realized at some point that this is too many. It's too many switches. It's too much to get through. Because when they do the switch countdown, it's 40 switches. Now, each one's only on for a second, but I timed it. It's 12 seconds of switch flicking.
Oh, I want to know how much time was spent handing out the switches.
I didn't count. I didn't count on screen. It'd be a few minutes. I know that, but you're right. I mean, they had to get back to Earth, then get up to Rabbit Hutch, then all of the switches appeared, and that's when Jen started getting beaten up. So they had to divide the switches up amongst themselves, leave Rabbit Hutch, go back to the school, find 40 people, give them the switch and say, flip it, And I love, too, that there's no real, like, don't worry, we'll call you, everyone go to this place so we can all do it at the same time. It was just, flip this for Gentarou. Okay. And I would have been there going, flick. Like, well, that was, like, now? Or how do we do it at a certain time? But explaining that would have made everything go for even longer. And that whole sequence was just, God, it's a neat idea, but executed so badly.
Okay. I loved that scene. I thought the movie... I thought the movie completely earned that, and that to me, and I'm sure that I'm going to be the only one, but that was what the scene in Double Forever should have been, to me. Because when I do like that scene in Double Forever, when everybody's yelling Kamen Rider and all that, but I never got any connection to those people. And now maybe this has just got to do with how I feel about Fourze as opposed to how I feel about Double, but when you saw everybody in the movie, in the Fourze movie, you know, I remembered who they all were, and I thought it was such an amazing idea that, you know, even though a lot of them really, they should hate Gentarou for what he did to them, but, you know, he became friends with all of them, and they're willing to step up to the plate and do this thing for him. And yes, it is silly that, you know, they just run around shoving the switches in people's hands, being like, press this for Gentarou, and they instantly know what to do, but I don't know, there's something, yeah, and then they do it, and there's just something very, it's one of those, I guess it's just one of those suspension of disbelief moments where I was able to completely suspend my disbelief for it, because I just thought it was such a great idea. And it was just,
I did like
this
the scene.
Epic build-up.
I mean, I'm actually a huge sucker for scenes like this. It's pretty hard to make me dislike it. I think that they shouldn't have cut back and forth to the fight so much. But you know, besides that, I did think it was actually really nice to see everyone that Gentarou had helped or maybe fought come back one last time.
Right, yeah.
I think if the pacing had been quicker overall, like all the idea behind it, I'm 100% into, and the visual side of it, taken in pieces, it was all working for me. I think it just, if somehow that sequence had been put together in a way that took half as long in the runtime, I would be more behind it, because like everything else about it, I'm fine with. It was just it was literally just the amount of time it took that pulled me back out.
Yeah, I agree, and I think
degree.
And I think Alicia's right too. Cutting back to the fight just highlighted that whole time Gentarou and Meteor are just getting the crap kicked out of them. If they'd stopped reminding us about that, I could have forgotten that, you know, this was happening. I mean, Gentarou wasn't even powered up. He should have been like half dead, but instead, by the time it's all done, he's just like, "Whew, oh yeah, that was rough. All right, let's go."
Yeah, see, I don't know. I thought that cutting back and forth shows you that, you know, it's happening simultaneously, but that the situation is just that dire that they need to do this, because they really build up the reveal of fusion states as this big deal. It's this big thing, and it felt really well earned, I thought, because with the movie power-ups, usually they can feel a little kind of tacked on and just thrown in there for the heck of it. But with this one, I thought they did a really good job of building it up and making it feel like something that needed to happen.
The bonds of friendship are stronger than iron!
I
love that.
Totally disagree. I think fusion states, I call it betrayal states.
Wait, I agree with Craig. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that.
What?
Wait, whose side are you on?
Pretending to be self-conscious about.
I've lost track of what's happening.
Sorry, I was pretending to be self-conscious about my opinion. Anyway,
but I called it betrayal states because the whole point of Fourze is we can do it together, except this time where I need you all to help me so I can do it by myself. With the spirit of all of his friends. He even takes Media's powers. And I don't understand how Fourze having Media's powers is better than having the two of them fight separately.
Because it's
the
embodiment of
rider.
Their hearts together.
No. I don't.
And he gets to fight like Bruce Lee and Gentarou style at the same time. It's twice as powerful.
That doesn't make sense.
I guess you could make an argument for the fact that as Cosmic states, Gentarou can teleport around, and I don't think we've seen any evidence that Meteor Storm has power on that level. He sometimes kind of blows in like a comet, but we don't actually like it's not something where we see him routinely using that to go from Earth to like orbit.
No, that's true. To me, it was like it was the exact when Cosmic States came about. It felt natural in the progression of the way that the characters were building towards each other. Whereas this felt like we need to give Fourze a new form, and so we're ditching everyone else so that he can have it, and it just irked me. I really didn't like it at all.
For me, I see why. I do see your point. For me, it was more of a, this is the pinnacle of our belief in our friend and hero, and we all get to join together our hearts and souls. And
Yeah,
I don't know. For me, it worked.
I liked it because I thought it is him powered by all his friends, and really, when you think about it, they're all his friends. I mean, Gentarou is the center of this big circle of friendship. So everything goes back to him, and I thought it was perfect. I loved it.
It's clearly supposed to come off as a thing where we've seen Gentarou put all of his time and energy into helping all these people, and now, you know, they can help him. They can give him the power that will, you know, save the Earth from the giant death robot. As you know, it's a movie form. There has to be one. It can be kind of difficult to write one in that feels substantial, so I certainly see where IGADEVIL's coming from, and just saying that there is a bit more to fusion states than we usually get out of our meteor forms. I mean, I have a fondness for Cyclone Joker Gold Extreme, but as a modification of a costume, he is kind of lame. He has wings now. Yay.
Yeah. Yeah, I was not a fan of that suit, but yeah, it's, you know, it does come. It's his movie, it's his show. It comes down to friendship and everyone's belief in the hero, and then that's where this. But I really thought how it came off. I like the costume design and the fight choreography that even went with it. That combined the fight styles of Fourze being all out, you know, bruiser with the flow of Bruce Lee and going.
I have to admit,
I'm sorry.
I can't say I like Meteor Fusion's
I know.
design. That's where I thought, yes, and he gets all of his friends' powers, and oh yeah, he looks like that. And it's just, the rest of it was fine, but it's, you know, now we shall take two of the strangest designers in Kamen Rider and combine their weaknesses.
With purple!
Yeah, and it's great because then apparently in Ultimatum they will combine a third rider design and create like the rider that transcends ugliness.
I thought that was Kamen Rider Decade.
Meteor Fusion is actually a little bit worse than Decade. Maybe even a little bit worse than Decade Complete. I would have to study them for a while, and I don't want to do that to my eyes.
I absolutely think it's worse. I think it's worse than Decade Complete.
Yeah, I won't go there. Well, but there is one thing, consistently, throughout all tokusatsu, I've always loved it when they make some kind of hideous costume design and just use it
of course you do.
With a straight face. And yeah, it's just, I like being won over, because it's like, not to bust on Wizard, but I find his costume completely inoffensive, and therefore it doesn't affect me at all.
What about when he turns into, Land Dragon, and he has this giant nuclear yellow trench coat?
It's still so symmetrical and clean.
Yeah,
still.
His base forms I could see, but the dragon forms I find kind of blinding. So...
But Fourze with his purple star-spangled gold and white mishmash of it's just so hideous that I'm just like, thank you. Go nuts. Go fucking crazy.
The gaudiness
with your
of it is very much in the spirit of 70s Toku costume design, though. I think I have to give it that.
Yeah, it does. It has this kind of stronger silhouette to it, but yeah, I don't know. The movie really won me over on it. I mean, going into it, I didn't hate it, but I was like, wow, that's your typical clunktastic ultimate form costume.
Clone-tastic.
But yeah, just again, the build up to it, the way it was used, the fight scene was really great. I just really dug it, and I still kind of feel like when I think of the word cosmic, that is a bit closer than actual cosmic states to me personally. But I like cosmic states too.
The other thing I didn't like about the handing out switches scene, to go back a half step, is the kind of logic behind it. Where and I think in the next movie, from what Paul's told me about it, I think this kind of corrects itself a little bit. Their plan is to hand out all the switches and hope that it works and Gentarou gets a new power, or at least his powers back. They know other Kamen Riders. They met one 6 hours ago. Can't they just be like, listen, Double, our buddy's fighting on the moon. Could you head up there and maybe give him a hand? Oh, and you know the guy with the coins? Yeah, you guys are friends, right? Do you think you could head over and pick him up as well? And it just, like, nothing? Like,
Well, you see,
You
we
mean
will find out in a side story photo comic using SIC figures that actually, simultaneously with this, Double and O's run an adventure fighting Foundation X.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay, what was Alicia Foundation?
The idea of it seems to be that that was the foundation that built all of the Space Iron Men. And they were kind of a secret group because they were afraid of their work falling into the wrong hands, but they actually built the wrong hands, so the secrecy didn't help.
So, that was not an homage or anything?
If it is, I don't know what to. I mean, that you would have to look to Paul for that.
What was it again? The
Alicia. Alicia Foundation.
I don't know, because the name, I was trying to think of it, like, was it a reference or something? I'd have to look it up later, but...
I know that it comes back in Ultimatum, but
yes.
that's kind of it.
I do love that Foundation X is the official movie bad guy.
And once again, getting completely screwed over.
Back again. And some continuity. They used the spaceship from...
Yes, they explicitly referenced Megamax. Which I'm sure...
I love that, because
that's
that
another
means that
complaint of Craig.
all the Sakamoto movies are...
listen, we couldn't afford a new CG model, so what we've done is grab the last CG model and we want to use it again.
All the Sakamoto movies are just being coalesced into this beautiful little universe of, like, no matter what happens in any show, the Sakamoto movies all happen in the same continuity. So I don't know, I love that little reference, because I was like, alright!
Well,
yeah.
I think if you're going to bring a lot of continuity into these shows, the movies is the place to do it, because if someone is paying to go see the movies, they're probably a bit more of a devoted fan, and it means that you can keep the TV shows kind of at a level where it's easier to watch them more casually and you don't have to keep track of a million things.
Yeah. I wonder if that's part of the reason why they've been so kind of opposed to doing team-ups and things like that on TV. That's actually why
I was kind of surprised that we didn't eventually get there in Fourze, since this is the writer about making friends. I thought if they were ever going to bring back having all the guys show up for the ending, it would be there. And like Wizard, it's an older style of show. I can't see them doing it either.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why actually the Go Busters, where they had Gavin on, it was kind of a surprise to me that they actually did that, because...
That was so weird, because Go Busters had been so aggressively, this is our own universe, we're starting things from ground one. Please go see this guy's movie.
I love that kind of stuff, where usually, like, throughout time, a good guy will get a certain power in a show, and it seems like that certain power is specifically to this bad guy faction and can't be used outside of it. So I kind of like it when Fourze, he just lives in a universe where, oh shit, there's a robot that's not a horoscope? Well, it's time to suit up and throw down, because this is just the world that I live in. And I like that, Gavin could show up in Go Busters, and, their weapons aren't specifically geared to stop the forces of Messiah, but if there are any other sci-fi bad guys that roll through their neighborhood, they're ready to throw down with those too. It just makes it like a fun always working universe. To me.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Let's see. Any other points?
Yes. What was with the random salad scene?
Oh,
that was
foreshadowing
foreshadowing of the most useless kind.
Because like I noticed, I made a note like that was weird.
Yeah.
Oh, they're foreshadowing the two flavors can be made into one.
You know, a guy on Twitter actually made that salad.
How was it?
And did it work?
It was horrible.
And that
and
sums
he
up
kind
the
of freaked
movie
out of it.
perfectly. Thank you. The salad makes my point.
I thought the salad would work because avocado's great. And like, do you see how much avocado he had in that box? Like,
Yeah, it
that's,
made me hungry for some guacamole.
That's like just eating like 4 blobs of butter. Like that's tasty but horrible for you. Like,
Yeah, no, that scene just came out of nowhere, and then was like, gone again. And then I guess at the end he says, "It's just like my salad," and I'm like, "Oh God, that was the justification for the salad scene."
Because I made the note and I was like, why did they do that? Oh, I see. They were foreshadowing with food.
Does
You guys
anyone
so
know
crazy.
if the teacher that was interacting with, I think it was Osugi is his name, was that the performer's comedy partner? Because
Yes.
I thought so.
Oh.
Yep.
I was wondering where he came from.
Yeah, that was.
So also,
He's not in the
on
show,
second-
is he?
No.
No, it really came off as like a special thing for
Yeah.
fans of the guy who plays Osugi.
Both of them.
I guess they exist.
So the bad guys and the reveal that they are bad guys, was that obvious to everyone? Because
Yeah.
it totally wasn't obvious to me that they were the robots. I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. He doesn't believe humanity and robots can be friends.
The minute that
I guess
guy
he
said
hates
that, I'm like,
robots.
oh, okay, he's ground done. And I'm pretty sure the roller skating thing is supposed to be that he hates his horrible meat sack body and he wants to have wheels. And I think the deal with his sister being clumsy is she hates her horrible meat sack body and cannot move well on the ground.
That is very obvious now. But for me, it's just like, wow, those robots must have done something to his family.
My father was
And then
killed
when
by a refrigerator, and ever since I've hated machinery.
There are Sentai shows where that is a valid backstory.
Yeah, so like then when the reveal happens, I was like, oh yeah, duh. I guess it was pretty obvious.
I didn't click that they were the robots, but I knew they were the bad guys.
I like that. I'm not sure if you said it before. I love martial artists speaking to each other through their fists. So Ryusei crossing fists with Inga and saying that you are a practitioner of the Star Soul Grand Ring Fist. Thought that was cool.
Oh, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I don't usually like Ryusei's character much at all, but I got a pretty big kick out of his little arc in this movie.
And also, I love that they touched on the Tomoko romance just a tad bit, because he's getting really close with that martial artist Inga chick, and then she gives him a kiss, and I was like, I wonder how Tomoko's gonna feel about that. And they actually did a
They
little
pan
shot.
away to her. That was
I was going to say, the answer
most beautiful
is
subtle
not
shot.
well.
Yeah, she's like, and he does this kind of face like, uh-oh. That was cute.
Well, look, I gotta say, look, Tomoko's cool and all, but given the choice, I'm going for the really
yeah,
hot martial
and
arts girl who's
can't blame
I ain't
him.
mad.
Can't blame him.
The tough robot
Also-
fighting chick in the leather.
Who was
Also,
playing
logic-
Inga? Was it
logically-
Miki Ehara? I know it was someone with some pretty long-lasting tokusatsu chops.
With Sagan?
The woman who was playing Inga Blank, was that Miki Ehara?
I don't know. Somebody else might know.
Yes.
Ah, thank
And
you.
what else was she in?
She was in.
What?
Trying to find her.
Well, while you try to find it...
Oh, she was in. She was
I
the
think
lead
that-
in Cutie Honey the Live.
She's which
The
one?
lead. She was Honey.
Really?
What?
Yeah.
Spit out drink.
Wow, there you go. I
Whoa.
didn't really put that together that she was honey. There you go. That explains why she was so good at all the fighting.
Stuffing, John. Oh,
Thought
cool.
I recognized that cleavage.
And missed that entirely.
Oh, I really wish I'd noticed
Although-
that. Because I loved her.
So go on.
God, that's all I was going to say. I loved her in Cutie Honey Life.
I was going to say that that puts a kind of a different spin on the relationship with Ryusei, who's in high school, because she's clearly like a slightly older lady.
Oh
That's
yeah,
why I
she's
vote for
meant. She's the older woman. There's a bit of Shinji and Misato there.
See, for well, this is what's his name's a bit better than Shinji, but Ryusei's that's why, like, if you know, Tomo or this girl, not a tough call.
Problems you wish you had.
Damn right.
All right, I guess a rant that I probably should put on record here. Like, we were talking over the break about, like, how I can enjoy, like, a movie if it doesn't have, like, the best plot. Like, you know, this wasn't sophisticated or anything. For me, like I said over the break, I change gears depending on the thing that I'm watching. So if I'm watching Garo, you know, you can't just bust out any kind of stupid plot or be goofy or, like, you know, really just totally biff it on, like, the logic. You know, like, I will freaking snap if, like, you know, they really, like, just throw logic out the window and laugh in my face about it, like in Superhero Tyson. But Superhero Tyson, there's no way you can get logic out of that many larger-than-life heroes who've saved the planet with their hands tied behind their back, all teamed up together. You're not going to get it. So I was just going to be like, you know what? In this case, I just downshift to, am I going to have some fun action on the screen, which you guys also didn't see. So I guess, yeah, it's all down to subjectivity. And in here, Craig, I gotta say, like, why don't you shift, Craig? Your logic problem. Why don't you shift gears when you're watching tokusatsu?
I do shift gears,
mean,
but I shift gears into tokusatsu mode. And in tokusatsu mode, everything's a bit more melodramatic, everything's a bit more over the top. But there's over the top, and then there's ridiculous. And, like, Fourze was silly, and that's fine. It was a comedy show, and I could get behind it as being silly. But, I mean, I wasn't on the final Fourze episode, but towards the end of the show, I had a lot of problems. I talked to Paul about this quite a lot. Like, and my problems were that I didn't like Yuki by the end, because they took her from being a slightly quirky, fun character to being someone who's clearly, like, have got some sort of mental problem. Like, she's clearly messed up somewhere. Something's gone horribly wrong along the way, especially if you rewatch the first few episodes. Or even Megamax. Like, in Megamax, she's great. She's goofy, but not over the top. By the end, she has a puppet that she talks to. You know? She's clearly snapped.
And the puppet has facial expressions that change.
Yes!
I kind of like that.
But you know what?
That means we're all crazy.
You know what? I bet only she sees the puppet's facial expressions change.
No, Keith saw them too.
Oh my
and
God.
we as the audience have seen them, so we are actually all in the madness that she lives
We've
in.
all been smoking
Perhaps
the
we're
cosmic
all
smoke.
going sane with her in a crazy world.
Oh.
I don't even know what that means.
Backslash the tick.
But no, I just couldn't get behind the idea that, you know, just smile and accept it. Well, no. Like, I can smile and accept something if you present it within the context of that world. This was further than the context of that world had previously been. There are moments in it that are fine. Like I say, the fight scenes are great. The things like the Fourze using his cosmic states to teleport the thing away and burning out all the switches, that was great. But then you've got, you know, Gentarou is a great actor, but when he's like talking to the robot, that was hammy even for him. That was the most over the top Gentarou has ever been that I can think of, and it was just, I couldn't get behind it. It was too much. They overplayed their hand.
Yeah, and I wouldn't call him a great actor. But, like, the thing I love about him is how hard he goes at everything he does. Like, yeah, I just haven't seen him do much of subtlety, even when he's being subtle. So like it didn't like break it for me when he just started punching the ground and crying and just breaking his throat over a robot.
A robot that he
I
just
was like-
met.
Yeah. Well, then maybe you just. Why do you hate friendship, Craig?
That's it. I do.
Why do you hate
I
friendship?
hate friendship. In fact, my secret plan to destroy all friendship has now been revealed.
Ah!
Oh, actually, I meant to ask you not on that, but just thinking about the giant robot. Paul, is the giant robot something from Grandine or Skydine or whatever?
Yeah, the giant robot is based on Daitetsujin 17 or Giant Iron Robot 17, and that's another Ishinomori show.
Oh, a completely different one.
It was
Yeah,
it was
completely
pretty
different
much Ishinomori's
Oh, okay.
answer to Giant Robo.
Yes.
Whoa.
And I
cool.
liked the depiction there. Actually, I mean, because he was an interesting character in the original show because he was very much a hero, but he kind of did his own thing and he didn't really get along with people. So I liked all that, and I love that they included Gravitron, which is the most devastating attack in tokusatsu, if you ask me, in the original show anyway. That was really cool, and I'm glad that he survived the movie because we might get to see him again someday.
I would love it if they brought him back in the next superhero Tyson. Just, well, I saw the center of the galaxy. Not much going on. What are you guys doing?
Oh,
Yo, I'm voiced by Wolzard. I'm just gonna show up and start doing magic.
All
So,
right,
so,
have you
so how
started
did you
running out
guys feel about the one shot we had of the weeping XV2?
What?
It
That
was cute.
was. I can't complain about that because that's a very classic Ishinomori thing.
Yeah,
Giant
for me, I was
robot.
like, wow, this is Ishinomori as all get out.
Yeah.
Every trope
the
is
shot?
here.
When was the shot of?
When he
Right before he
fires,
fired.
yeah, to show that he
Oh God,
deep down he does not want to be doing this.
I was not looking closely enough. Did not see.
Yeah, there's this effect where he's venting energy out of his eyes, and it looks exactly like the tear marks that are on pretty much all the
Cute.
classic Ishinomori heroes.
Yep, totally missed. Are we running out of things to talk about? Because then we could just, take a break and finish up with like general geekery and tokusatsu.
Well, have you
one
gone through the
really
list?
quick question. Oh,
Well,
my list?
Igadevil. Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, have we
Greg.
gone through?
Igadevil, you first.
Okay. No, I was wondering if we've gone through all Craig's list because I'm not. I'm
Craig's list.
not. Yeah. I'm
Oh,
still
no.
I'm still not sure what exactly you didn't like about the movie. I mean,
Okay.
other than the specific things, but like, why was it horrible?
to me, it was just a build-up of. Look, maybe it's just that I really like Wizard. Maybe I'm liking where Toku is right now, that I've been enjoying everything else. That to come back, I really wanted to be like Megamax, where I came back and I was like, oh, that's right, this is all the stuff that I loved about Fourze when it started. And I didn't get that with this. It was... The plot's kind of all over the place. There's a lot of things that don't make sense. There's lots of bits that just feel... like they were just thrown in. There's lots of little moments that annoyed me. I guess it's kind of like I didn't like the tone, and so the little moments become worse. Like when he's on the bus and Fourze transforms, jumps off the bus onto the bike that's suddenly beside him, and jumps onto it backwards. And then the next time he turns around, like the next time you get a shot, he's riding the bike properly. Like, just little shit like that happens throughout the whole movie. It bugged me. How did they know about Fourze and the guys anyway? Why did they need those guys, since they didn't really use any super-powered stuff? Why them and not just a crew of their own guys to put bombs on the ship? It was just one thing after another that didn't make sense to me. And Tyson was such a mess overall, that I guess in some ways I took it less seriously, but this had so many good bits that the bad bits stood out even more, and that's what bothered me. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
I don't.
I don't agree with it, but it makes
And-
sense.
And you're affecting our friendship here.
It kind of sounds
you don't
like
believe in friendship?
your reaction to Fourze is my reaction to O's, where if I sit down and talk about it, I will be saying all this stuff that sounds positive, and I generally do not enjoy sitting down and actually watching it. And it just comes down to the fact that, like, just on a gut level, there's just something about it that just displeases me.
Which I actually feel that way about O's as well. Like, O's is one of those shows where I can never figure out why I don't like it. It just never quite hit the right note with me. And maybe you're right. Maybe it is that way with this. Like, I got to the end and I was like, well, this was cool and that fight was neat, but eh. And then as I went back and started writing notes to myself, and this is the first time we've done one of these shows where I've ever written notes. Ever. Usually I just remember it. But this one I was like, no, I feel like I need to be able to explain myself better. And, you know, it just never quite came together for me. And I kind of wish it had. I was ready to come back to that world. I was ready to see these guys again. But
I did want to ask, like it sounds like a lot of the stuff that really just brought the movie down for you was on more of a writing level than anything else.
Yeah.
Like did you so you feel it was mostly the because I like going off the thing I said before, I'm always wondering if anyone's going to hit a Sakamoto fatigue, but it sounds like that wasn't at all what brought it down for you.
I mean, with the exception of the taking forever to hand out the switches thing, which I feel like really needed to be trimmed, and that felt like an editing and a direct, like, I don't know, unless it was a studio mandated thing that we see everybody, but it felt like a directorial mistake. It's the problem I've had with Paul. What's the one that I can never remember the name of? The one where all the riders show up. Let's Go Kamen Rider. My issue with the end of Let's Go Kamen Rider is we get that beat of everyone introducing themselves, and it goes on forever, and it destroys the entire tension of that whole moment, because we have to spend time introducing 25 characters, and maybe it's just the filmmaker in me, this gut reaction to, you needed to trim, you needed to pull it all and make it tighter. I don't know. I mean, Chris, you're a filmmaker as well. Did you not feel that way? Like it just needed tightness?
Well, that sequence in particular, that's one where I'm not sure how much I can, because when I say Sakamoto fatigue, I mean more so like his staples of his visual style. That particular sequence felt very much like there might have been some kind of outside request or mandate of how much every single one of those actors were featured. Because it feels like they very much wanted to go out of their way to showcase all those actors coming back to replay their often one-off characters. So I'm not like that. That is a case where I'm like, if I had full control over the film, like I wouldn't have put together the shot list to have single shots for over 30 of them. With only a few pairings, like I would have had at least 5 of those characters in every shot. I would have given Kickboxer Teacher her own shot, because I felt that was a beautiful moment, and that should have been the final one.
I don't know. I kind of like the principal as the final one. That sort of worked.
Well, yeah, I agree. Like the principal works as the final one, but like at least the emotional high was Kickboxer Teacher, and I was to have so much time between that and then the final one with the principal, I was like, oh man, like yeah, in full control, I would have, before shooting even happened, I would have laid it down that we're having at least 5 of these actors in every shot, so that we are keeping this down to under 10 shots of all of them, or at least 10 sequences of all of them. And so with that in mind, like I don't know how much of this really lies on Sakamoto's shoulders, given the way that, you know, a Toei property movie can work, like where we, especially with like through what has been heard about Decade, like clearly there are sometimes the folks with money like putting down some of the laws that are going to be governing how it comes together. So yeah, like I certainly don't disagree. Like if I were in charge of it, I would have had it tighter. But I'm like if they had to shoot all those sequences separately, I don't know how they could have cut it together to be any faster, other than like split screen pretty much.
Yeah.
Because given the footage they had, it ran pretty fast in comparison to how much footage they had, but like I would have just not shot that much footage. I would have condensed a lot of the shots down.
Actually,
yeah, it would have been better if they just did like quick shots of handoffs. If they want to do like rapid fire split screen handoffs instead of like everyone getting their own shot of here, take this, here, take
especially
this, and then like, you know, the big shots of like well-known
when
characters.
they went to throw the switches, a bunch of them had actually grouped up together. Like, just before you see them throw the switch, there's shots of like 6 or 7 of them standing in groups, getting ready to do it. Not all of them, but some of them had grouped up by that point. So, I mean, just hand it to them while they're in those groups. You clearly had them together at some stage. Do it then.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, the fault of that to me lies more so in whatever it was that resulted in the sheer number of separate shots. And I don't know exactly where that would have come from without, like, asking people. And
Agreed.
I just wonder if it's the logistics of, we have 40 switches, we need 40 people. But, like, if you look at the equivalent scene from A to Z that was much shorter, that was only, like, about 20 characters, because most of them were the 1 or the 2 characters around for that particular case. Like, and just because of that, like, I didn't recognize some of the people that showed up at first in the Fourze sequence, but, like, with Double, I think I've still memorized the sequence of all the dopants and, like, all the characters of the week, just because I really like that show.
And I think that A to Z somehow A to Z made them all more recognizable to me. Like, I think that one of the problems with doing the same thing with Fourze is that a number of those students, and I suppose part of this is that they're all wearing the same uniform, but a number of those students, I just didn't really remember who they were.
Yeah,
I was just like I remember the Glee Club, and of course you remember some of the really key ones, like the witch and stuff like that. But it's like some of them I was just like
the girl and the guy who were the Fly and her friend who were in the Kamen Rider Club. They were like Kamen Rider Club Junior or whatever.
Yeah, they had a great scene there, but some of them, especially some who had, like, more than one angle even to what they were doing, and almost a reveal on some of them, I was just like, who is this? I can't remember.
Actually, who was the guy? There's one that Shun runs up and says, "Here, brother, can you take this?" Who was that guy?
I think that might have been from an early episode. Like, I vaguely recall an episode with another member of the football team.
Yeah, was it?
Actually, those guys were from the early episodes, and I know there was one person he gave it to who was like a former switcher that Gentarou talked down.
Right, okay.
Right.
All right. Anything else we can talk about from the movie?
You've been real quiet for a while.
Final.
Oh, I just didn't want to pop in. You guys were having so much back and forth.
We could do final thoughts and then get on to just general geekery.
Show.
Let's do it.
All right, then Craig, lead the way. Final thoughts on the movie.
So we can get the one negative out of the way before we do all the positives?
Why would you say that?
Call it a hunch.
I love Deno. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, Deno is
It was
fantastic.
fantastic.
No, I wish I liked this more. I really do, because I was ready to come back and see a little more Fourze. I think while the action scenes are very good and the use of switches is fantastic, I think there's so many little inconsistencies and so many little moments, and the writing is just not there to really make this a viable film. Like, it feels like O's Wonderful in the sense that you can completely skip it and you won't lose out on anything. But I preferred O's Wonderful to this, actually. I think I'm the only one. But yeah, no, it didn't hit me. Didn't do anything for me the way that a lot of the Kamen Rider movies do, and I kind of wish it had. If you get a chance to see some of the fight scenes out of it, especially the early on one where Fourze fights the Black Knight and all of the horoscopes, give that a watch. It's really, really cool. But other than that, yeah, I don't think you're going to miss too much.
All right. Vangelus, what'd you think?
Well, I mean, clearly this is going to be one for the Sakamoto fans to watch, because, like, his tour de force is in this movie, as it often is, and he's got new things in this movie. So like easily, if you're into the Sakamoto stuff, regardless of what the content is, you'll get your Sakamoto juice out of this, like 100%. I think it you know, for the Fourze fans, it's worth checking out because it's I feel like it's O's Wonderful Plus. So it's like just this little romp with all the characters you love. It happens at a specific point in the timeline, but doesn't affect the overall arc of the show, at least in the television sense. And I think that the like just the visual side of it was really, really freaking cool. Like visually, it had a whole lot of really cool stuff going on. I didn't like dislike the plot or anything, but I felt that the visuals were the strength of the movie. The plot does involve like a whole lot of like a lot of moments where you kind of have to pause and just go like, well, what, and then like something really cool happens, and I like. It's a movie where I was successful distracted enough by the visuals to not even start analyzing the events that were going on. And I think just the visuals were incredibly strong. And there were beautiful moments in that. Like there were moments where I just got really worked up, and they got me right in there. Oddly enough, one of the moments where I really got worked up and pulled right in was Gentarou punching the floor and being really pissed off that he couldn't save the computer. Because I was like, oh, I feel for you, man. Like that. I don't know, that moment really kind of caught me, but I think it's worth checking out. It's a strong entry in the Sakamoto writer series of films. Clearly, it is part of that series of films now, and yeah, it's a fun 65 minutes.
Cool, Alicia, what'd you think?
I really enjoyed it. It's a movie I would be happy to watch again sometime. I really enjoy it when Toei will pull something that's not Rider or Sentai out of their catalog and let someone really talented play with it, and I think that's mostly what this movie is, and it fits into Fourze. You know, you have the nice little arc with Gentarou, you have a lot of fun moments. I would expect a fan of the show to like it, but you know, maybe not. We've seen an opposing point of view here. You know, it's fun. I mean, when I go into the summer movies, what I mainly want is some good fights and some setup that enhances those fights. And I feel like that's really what this movie wanted to do. It's just cool fight after cool fight after cool fight, and the movie barely stops to take its breath. And that's basically what I want to see. I hope Sakamoto's tenure with Toei is long, and I hope they let him do all kinds of other things and just play around with pushing the boundaries of what he can make these movies look like and what kinds of stories he can tell with them.
And please let him do a superhero Taisen. If not, like, not this year, but in the next 2 years.
Oh, God,
like,
yes.
Like, let him do an SHT. He deserves it.
I would certainly much rather see Sakamoto's SHT than, like, Osamu Kaneda's. It was you know, watching the Gavan, it's shocking to know that that's the same Osamu Kaneda because it's so much more interesting.
Yeah.
All right, IGADEVIL, what'd you think?
Well, you know, I think there are certain movies when it comes to Kamen Rider where I can understand the problems with them, I can understand the complaints, and this is definitely one. Like, I clearly love the movie, but I do like listening to everything that Craig has been saying and the rest of you guys. I do understand a lot of the complaints. I can see where you're coming from on them all, about, you know, some scenes running too long or whatever. And like I said, I have a few of my own. I mean, I still feel, the first time I watched this, actually, I came out of the theater thinking, this is going to be one of those movies that I think everybody else will love a lot more than I do. Because I was so kind of let down by what they did with Kyodine, where they were great, but I felt like they could have been so much more. And, you know, now a little time has passed, and I've since gone back and watched it again. And I really do like it a lot. I think it's a very solid movie. But, you know, still, I can understand why, if this one isn't to your taste, then, you know, I get it. But overall, I mean, I think it's really good. It's a lot of fun. It's got some great action. I think if you're a fan of Fourze, you'll probably like it, because it's got everything that the show had. All, you know, as the summer movies usually do. It's a chance to pull together all the characters and get in all the important bits and everything like that. Now, and coming at it as a Kyodine fan, actually, I think it's worth checking out. I mean, you might be a little upset at what they've done with the characters, but I think they do a pretty good job of still paying tribute to them in a way, and making them look really cool. And again, it's just kind of a shame that they're just the villains rather than being something a bit more, because that would be really cool to see. And we do thankfully get to see a little bit of it in the next movie. So actually, having seen Ultimatum, I wonder if a lot of the problems that people have with this one, maybe that movie will address in some ways. I don't know. We'll have to see when that comes out. But overall, I thought this was a really good film.
Cool. I will agree. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's like I keep saying, while I was watching the TV series, like Fourze would make me grow hair just so I could pull it out in anger, because I was just like, "What are you guys doing?" But
how do you do that?
It's really difficult, and I have to be very angry for it to work. So, but from there though, like after it was over, I did love the finale, and I love the characters. Like, they're so happy, they have so much fun, they work so well together, they have great chemistry. Although all of them are one-note caricatures, they do them with such glee. It's fun to see them. So I guess I did find that after all the frustration, I missed them. So it's great to see them once again back on the screen, standing tall, looking proud, marching side by side out of the hangar with guns, and seeing them all in action. Like, the frustration was, you'd never get to see all of them in action enough, and here, like, everyone got a moment, except for Tomoko, but even she had her moments.
Where was her power dizer? That's what I want to know. That
yeah.
like the black rune-encrusted power dizer that just like shoots Woolsard incantations.
the power dizer mech fight, that was cool. I could see having like the three of those on a desk being a lot of fun. Overall,
that'd be so expensive.
Oh yeah. Overall, though, it was just so much damn fun. Koichi Sakamoto does not let up to let you get bored. Even like, you expect that when they land on the space station, at least they'll take a moment to sneak in, but a gunshot rings out right as the door opens, and there's fighting. It's just wall-to-wall action, lots of fun. With here, it's Fourze, silly universe. I downship. I'm not expecting too much of a sophisticated plot. Just lots of fun action, great moments, fun performances, and I got just that. And Koichi Sakamoto, once again, is just, dude, dazzles the eyes with giant earth in the background with the final kick finisher. It was just freaking beautiful. So I recommend it, of course, because if you want to have some fun with some toku action, and I believe even non-toku people, well, no, actually, her roommate sat down for a little while, and he's like, I have no idea what's going on the screen right now. So maybe, but for us who like...
I don't think it's the open book that A to Z was.
No. But yeah, if you like Kamen Rider Fourze, Kamen Rider Action, Tokusatsu, Koichi Sakamoto, you're going to have a blast. So, yeah. I think we're going to take one last break, come back on the other side, do some general geeking, talk about Tokusatsu, and we'll finish up episode 47. It has been space time, and I can't wait to see these guys again, hopefully in the future. That's it. And we'll see you on the other side.
Blat!
1801, the revolution had been won, and Uncle Sam's favorite son had a job he needed done.
Which brought Jack to a lady, both beautiful and smart, who found his mix intriguing.
A scoundrel with a heart. From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, there was never a lemonade braver, and down in Dragoon they see off the bold advance of Napoleon's attack. There ain't a French or pirate's rogue who don't know Jack. From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, sail around the bloody world to defend democracy. And when you need a fighting man, you trust to watch your back. Just ask the bloke right next to you. Am I? It's Jack.
And here we are to finish the fight, and talk about just general geekness. Kind of like I can say really quickly that I've been hate watching Jack of All Trades, which has the greatest opening I've ever seen. But man, they didn't really try. Do you guys know what Jack of all trades is?
Yeah, that's the is that the Bruce Campbell show?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was with Cleopatra something.
I remember that.
Yeah, I wanted some good, maybe a series of steampunk-ish action and maybe a good story, and they don't try. Like they set up a situation where Bruce Campbell can say lots of funny things, but it's just like stupid episode after let's do another stupid episode where they go to an S&M island, and now everybody's in leather corsets and getting spanked and giggling, and it's just dumb.
I love the term hate watching. That's new to me.
Yeah, I did that with
hate watching is the name of Keith's new band, and S&M Island is its first album.
I was hate watching The Walking Dead when I thought it was bad because I was like, oh god, oh stupid, but then it got good again. But yeah, that was just some really quick geeking. But Craig, you have tokusatsu to talk about.
I do, because I never get to talk about it because I keep missing episodes because of my busy life.
And you live in a land down under. I
do, although you get IGADEVIL on, and he's even further removed from the time stream than I am.
Oh.
But, no, it's my fault. I've been busy. Yes, so I haven't had a chance to completely geek out on an HJU about how frigging awesome Wizard is. I am in love with Wizard, and I'm fairly sure it is rapidly approaching Double as my favorite show.
Damn.
Rapidly.
I am so glad that you're enjoying it, because I don't like it at all, and it's making me sad.
I'm so glad you're enjoying it.
It's
great.
Well, for me, I'm just like, oh god, I'm so glad someone likes Wizard. Because sometimes the feedback we get after a new Wizard episode comes back is so negative. It's like, wow, everyone watching this show hates it.
Yeah, I like I said, I like it when people like things, so I'm glad you're enjoying it. Because for me, it starts with the suit, which I find so plain, and none of the stories are really engaging me. I'm just kind of but please tell me what you're seeing when you look at it.
Yeah, I totally disagree. I think that while it hasn't been perfect, it certainly had its missteps. I mean, no writer show is perfect as far as I'm concerned.
Double.
No,
I don't think Double is perfect. The first 8 to 10 episodes have some of the worst episodes in the whole series.
Yeah.
Lies. Go. I'm sorry.
Really? What's it called? The tornado. What's the dance?
I like the Heaven's Tornado episodes. I'm sorry. Oh
dear.
It was about how Philip had autism. It was character building. I know the dancing didn't make sense. I don't care.
Yelling makes it better.
Still right.
No,
anyway, go ahead.
For me, Wizard has been amazing. I think the weakest part, sadly, is Haruto himself, and it's more like Alicia said earlier about the actor portraying him. He's actually a really good actor, but he's not given a lot of room to run, and I think that's a bit of a shame. But what he is given is great. I love some of the moments that they do with this show. In the last, I haven't seen this week's one yet. Have you? Oh no, it'd be tomorrow for you, Paul, wouldn't it?
Today. It's just on.
Have you? Oh, how was it?
I wasn't really paying attention, unfortunately, but I was on the.
I was podcasting with you, numbnuts.
But up until the last sort of 3 or 4, I think it was 4 parts with the build up of Phoenix, have been so good, and the resolution for what he does to Phoenix, holy shit! You want to talk about how dark things have gotten in Clone Wars, which is a conversation we're having between recordings. I mean, do we want to spoil it? If you don't want to get spoiled for Wizard, don't spoil it. Okay.
I've only watched up to episode 9, and then I fell behind, but I've started trying to catch up, so I'm gonna get there soon.
Okay. Well, the way that he deals with Phoenix blew my mind. You got to you got to tweet me, Chris, when you get there. You got to be like, tell me what you think, because I really want to know, man.
Because you don't care what I think.
Well, you don't like it.
Oh. Never mind.
You already told me what you think.
I know. I'm talking. Anyway, go ahead.
But no, I mean, I I agree with Alicia that the dragon forms aren't great, but I feel like with the dragon forms we're building to something. I feel like there's something that's gonna happen with it that I don't want to spoil again because I don't want to wreck things for Chris. But the way that they're playing out all of the characters, other than Haruto, I think has been really enjoyable. I love Beast. Beast is easily, I'd say easily my new favorite secondary rider.
Axel?
Yep, beats I prefer him to Axel.
Fuck, man, damn.
Axel
have you seen the news about his figure arts toy?
Axel or
Beast?
What
So
about it?
Beast, all of his capes don't come with the figure arts. They're instead doing a web exclusive pack of the 4 capes when they're hanging and the 4 capes when they're billowing. And I was like, when I saw that news, I just seen his design. I think he looks neat, and I was just sitting there going like, it's just 4 capes. Can you just put it in the box? Just up it, make it cost other.
I'm actually not that upset about that because I don't like the capes. I mean, they're neat in the show, but I like his base design a lot more without the capes, or the mantles, I think they're called. But
Mantle.
I'm not gonna go into great detail, but Alicia and is everyone else other than Chris up to date with the episodes or relatively up to date?
Yeah, I'm up to
I'm
date.
halfway through.
Then I'll
I'm
say
halfway
this
through
for
the last episode.
okay, I was gonna say this for the last episode. My new favorite moment is Beast's secret henshin.
Yeah.
I don't think I have laughed that hard at a tokusatsu in a long time. I had to stop it.
That was
pissing
funny.
myself.
That was like legit funny.
Yeah. Okay, now. Guy, and the actor played it. He is great. I love the guy playing Beast, and that moment was just genius. Like it was just so freaking clever and funny and just legit funny. Like, you're right. You could show that to a non-Toku fan and they would get a crack out of it. And then right afterwards, when Beast is pretending to be a girl, oh my god, it's awesome. It was so good.
It reminded me a lot of one of my favorite moments in Time Ranger, and I think this is an episode that we've actually released where they're having to take out this villain who has this complicated territory control gimmick, and they're going to try to snipe him long distance, because they're a gritty, realistic Sentai team. So Pink is getting ready to set up her shot, and she has to summon her big sniper gun undercover. So she does the whole pose, but she's whispering full sniper. And I just lost it. It's that I just loved it. I don't know. I mean, maybe you have to have seen it. But I just love the idea that, okay, we can be a realistic Sentai team, but we're still a Sentai team. We do have to say it. We can't just not say it.
Yeah.
That's just not even on the table.
Chris, have you watched any of Beast at all? Have you seen his henshin or anything?
Yeah, when he debuted, I found a clip of one of his first fight scenes and watched that because I wanted to see the body language.
So you know how he does the big sweeping arm motion and the big henshin, and then stands up and plugs the ring in?
Yeah.
Imagine him doing that, but whispering and sitting behind a wall on the ground, and he kind of waves his arms around a little bit, and then it's so funny. It's so funny. So, I mean, Wizard to me is just hitting all the right notes. Every time an episode comes out, I like it more and more. I thought what they did with Rinko in the last few episodes completely redeemed her character. She had sort of disappeared off into the ether and just become this sort of person who'd show up here and there. But they completely redeemed her character in those 4 episodes. Shunpei is still not great, but at least isn't it's kind of the way that in Double, I was about to call her Yuki. What was the girl's name in Double? Akiko. It was kind of the way that Akiko walked a very fine line between being really annoying and tolerable. And Shunpei is walking that same sort of line. He can be really annoying, but for the most part, he's pretty cool. He's just okay enough to not make me hate him.
What makes you feel that he's cool?
Well, cool was the wrong word. You're right. I may have overdone it with cool, but at least he's tolerable.
I can defend him as cool.
I mean, yeah, please. I find him to be the new milk drinker of this era because he's just kind of All right.
Oh, but I
and
like the milk drinker.
The milk guy kind of had
I-
more to do.
Gentarou,
yeah.
right? No,
From
Blade.
Blade.
Samurai Blade.
Oh, okay, I haven't made it. Oh, yes, I do know who that is.
Yeah,
Okay,
with
good.
Shunpei, what I really like about him is that they go out of their way to have him show you that even though he's a clumsy loser, basically, he's a really good guy and he really wants to do the best thing possible, and he he definitely cares about people. And
he's clumsy, but he's not stupid.
yeah, like there's always kind of, I mean, honestly, like 99% of the time, he does make me laugh when he does something. Like there have been some bits where I really am legitimately cracked up by what he's doing. But yeah, I think it's just the fact that the thing about like comic relief characters in general, I've always felt is they're very tricky because it's a lot easier to laugh with someone that you care about, if you know what I mean. So, like, when they have comedy with the regulars, like the regular serious characters, like whenever Haruto is doing something silly, I always find it really funny because I care about Haruto and what he's doing. I care about him in the fights and stuff like that. And the show's managed to make me care about Shunpei too. So I do enjoy watching him, and I think he's a good character. I don't think he's really, he was a little bit rough at the beginning, and I do think sometimes they've made a cliffhanger out of him kind of bumbling into trouble at the last minute. But yeah, overall, I don't think he's a character. I don't really get the hate for him, I guess.
Okay.
Well,
yeah.
Would you like to get the hate for him?
Do tell.
It's the thing with Shunpei is as a comedian, I actually think he's one of the least funny people on the show, and I find it very frustrating that he gets the bulk of the comic relief. I think Haruto is much funnier. I'm a little annoyed at how much Rinko is played for comedy, but I think she does that job a little bit better. But I wish the main comic relief character was the donut cart guy and his sidekick. Yeah. I love those guys.
Yeah, they're cool.
They're hilarious. And
totally agree.
And because Haruto has to go seek them out, there's never a danger that they would interrupt a scene that they don't need to be in, because they don't hang around all the time. The thing with Shunpei is that he hangs around all the time, so he constantly has to have something to do. But they've done multiple episodes about the fact that there's not anything out of the ordinary Shunpei can do. He doesn't have Rinko's connections, he doesn't have Koyomi's personal connection to Haruto, he doesn't have Wajima's actual job he can do, and he's not like Haruto or Kosuke where he can actually go out and fight the monsters. He's just there because it would make him feel bad if he didn't get to be there, and no, that's not adequate qualification to get to be part of the main cast. Contribute something or go home.
I like comedy with the I want the people who are involved in being like agents of being able to affect the plot, and then you write comedy for them so that I'm experiencing comedy while the plot is still evolving. Like, did you guys see that Bulk from Bulk and Skull posted on my Facebook?
Yes, I remember.
No, but that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, because like apparently he remembers a conversation. I had a few drinks and I went up to him at the convention, and he remembers my quote of, "I like Kung Fu and robots, and I'm just not down with Bulk and Skull. No offense, but I do like you guys. You guys are great actors." And then, like, out of nowhere, I wake up one morning and Paul Schraer posts on your wall. I'm like, what? And he says, "Just so everyone knows, Keith Justice, this is not like Bulk and Skull. He just wants robots and Kung Fu. You dig?" I was like, what? Oh my god. I hope he was joking. I'm sorry.
Wow, you got trolled by Bulk.
Oh my god, I was so scared. I was like, I can't tell if you're joking, because he didn't reply at all to any of the replies. I was like, I think you guys are still good people. Oh god. So, like, well, I'm pretty sure Shunpei is a good person. I feel like, I don't like it when, like, we have to have a character bumble in just for comedy, as opposed to, like, you have a good cast that's funny. Like, the interaction between Iji and Ankh, I thought that, for me, was just, like, that was how you do it. Like, you have people involved in the action, plot, and whatnot, and they're funny.
Well, you could argue in O's that Chiyoko was the pure comic relief character. But even then, she was comic relief, and she did have a setting function. She owned the place where the main characters hung out. And mostly it was just the normal person they knew. I know they tried to do some plot, whereas she looks just like Dr. Maki's sister, oh no, and I don't recall much actually really coming of that, which is probably good. I think in these hero shows, it is important to make sure that the hero knows some normal people to give context to the crazy goings-on. I don't see why Rinko is not normal enough. I don't see why you kind of need what I feel like should be her story function split between herself and Shunpei.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that, and I do feel like for the longest time, it felt to me like the show didn't need to have a supporting cast. Like Shunpei and Rinko were just kind of hanging around because they were the first people that Haruto saved, but they could have been characters that came in and out, and actually, to a degree, I feel that way about Beast. I mean, I love Beast. I love the character. I love everything about him. But it does kind of feel at times like the writers are still doing a one-writer show, and then they drop Beast in there because they're like, oh yeah, we have this guy. Let's throw him into a fight scene. No, the last 2 episodes are kind of an exception because they were really about Beast. But at least for
I almost feel like they've sort of finished Haruto's first big story arc. And now, okay, we're getting into the usual middle of the writer show thing, where we're exploring the secondary writer. It's just certain things in the plot had to happen first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Vangelus, you haven't said anything about
He hasn't
Wizard?
watched it.
I've only watched up to episode 9, so all I can tell you is, man, when they debuted that Flame Dragon, that was pretty cool.
Flame Dragon's debut was amazing. It might be the high point of the show. I think
Is that
even,
where,
even
like,
out the X to date.
Was that when he confronted the other Haruto?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I loved that scene. I was like, oh shit, maybe I do like this show. And then, that's it.
Wizard is a
I'm
show
really
that
surprised.
can be good. I can see why, like IGADEVIL and Craig are really into it. It is a show that when it sits down and decides to just do really traditional writer stuff, all the pieces are in place there to do it very well. I feel like what drags the show down is really specific to some oddities of its writing. Specifically, I think the main writer is a less good writer than the secondary writer, but the secondary writer doesn't get to do any plot points. And this creates a very weird tone imbalance when you're going through the show. And like I know people have accused Wizard of feeling really empty, and I think that is because the head writer's not actually writing a lot of it. So you've got the secondary writer kind of having to come up with ways to spin her wheels while we wait for the main guy to come back and actually do something again.
Yeah, I think that the biggest issue with Haruto's character is they've not delved enough into it. Like, you're right. One of the best episodes was that the introduction of Flame Dragon, because we got into Haruto's head literally, but we also got into he sits down. And I think he's talking to Rinko, right? And he says, "I'm scared, man. I'm terrified of going out there."
That was a great episode.
That was a great moment. See, this is why I think it doesn't make Haruto a bad character that he's the justice hobo type of writer. We don't need to know about his family. A lot of writers are just...
That's awesome. I've never heard that phrase before. The justice hobo.
We have a lot of justice hobos in this franchise. Guys who don't really have jobs, don't really come from anywhere, we don't know a lot about them, but they will go out and fight the monsters that need to be fought. Some people really object to Haruto being a character like that because he doesn't have a really complicated backstory. We don't really know what a lot of his personal life was like. He doesn't, there's no important plot revelations involving his family or like people who knew him. But I think that's fine because what makes Haruto interesting is his psychology and how he feels about this strange situation he's been thrust into.
Yeah.
I agree, and I mean the show's also not over. I mean we may well get a lot more into his backstory and his history. It doesn't destroy the show by any stretch, but when people say Haruto himself doesn't have a lot of depth as a character, I don't think that's necessarily true, but he certainly doesn't have a lot of history as a character, let's say.
A lot of people I've noticed cannot really tell the difference between backstory and actual character. A lot of people will refer to it as character development just when you find out more backstory about a character, and that's not actually what the term means.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that. But,
do you want to dip into Kyoryuger yet at all?
Yeah, Kyoryuger, so I've only seen the first two. Oh, you're not liking it? Nikki didn't like it either.
I guess I'll start, and that's that. I watched the first. I've seen all 3 episodes now. I mean, the third one was on the background when we started recording.
There's already 3 episodes.
Yeah,
yeah.
And
only seen 1.
You know, it's kind of the modern Sentai, as I call it, where there's nothing wrong with it. It's a perfectly good show, but it's not one that I'm gonna wake up for and watch religiously, because I don't know. I mean, there's nothing I dislike about it, but there's just not that hook to it, which some of the older Sentai have managed to do. I mean, I've gone back and watched, you know, the 70s and the 80s, and even some of the 90s ones. I'm really interested to sit down and watch a couple that I've seen bits and pieces of, but never in full.
I find I would once upon a time I used to roll my eyes when people say, "But the older shows are better." Wow, okay, boy was I wrong, because they are better. But like they're two different for me. They're two different animals. I cannot expect the new Sentai to do what the old Sentai did, because damn, wow. So I just shift gears and it's just so wild, bright, and fun that I can't help but have a good time.
It certainly, I mean, it looks cool. I love the designs of the team and the villains. There's something about them where they look so
the villains are really appealing,
and
they're really really cartoony.
That's the downside.
Oh, see, I really love that whole approach to villain design in Sentai, where they're like cartoony.
Yeah.
They have the really strong silhouettes you see in animation, but they've realized it in live action, and I don't know. I just find that very appealing.
Yeah, I guess I can see that. They're not really grabbing me. I don't hate them or anything, but they're not super grabbing me. I do like the idea that's really introduced in the first episode that when the red guy's like, "Hey, I'm king, and I'm going to be who are you guys?" And they're all like, "Well, we don't talk about that. We just come together and we fight, and then we all go about our lives." And they're slowly sort of breaking that down and putting the team together. But that was one of the hooks for me. I was like, the idea that they each have personal lives and stuff away from being a Sentai team is something we haven't had in a little while.
It's been a long time since Sentai has gone out of its way to actually earn all of the tropes it's used. And I can tell that with Kyoryuger, this is Riku Sanjo's master thesis on these are my feelings about Sentai. And he wants us to walk through every step of the process and earn all the things that are clearly just Sentai tropes he loves. And it has been so long since we've had an approach to the franchise that was so willing to not take anything for granted. I'm kind of mad. I wanted to be mad at this show on behalf of Go Busters and be like, they sold out our sci-fi show and went all out for the dumb dinosaur. I can't do it. It's really good. It's just really good Sentai.
Yeah, and the effects with the T-Rex in the first episode I thought were really cool, because that was actually a guy in a suit, right?
Wonderful. Yeah, that was all practical effects, and that was...
No, really?
Yeah.
That was
They
good.
did some
I didn't know
CG
that.
in integration, but that was a guy in a suit, and that was real dirt, real rocks.
Yeah, primarily that T-Rex is done in practical. The only times it's CG were a couple of dynamic angled shots, and that was the only times I felt it was CG. A lot of those shots looked like it was a practical thing, which kind of appealed to me the same way that the first episode of Deca Ranger used a whole ton of practical effects for the car in that opening sequence. And I remember that really grabbed me back in the day.
2 things that I want to bring up are, what do you guys think of the dancing? And what do you think of the comments from, I think it was the producer, about why there's no Yellow Ranger?
Okay.
We talked about this in the
okay,
last
alright.
podcast.
Yeah, so I will.
But it's worth going over again if you want to.
Yeah, because I think
actually only saw
because I think
reactions. I
Craig
don't know
and
what the statement
Vangelus
was.
weren't around for that.
Yeah, I said that, like, 'cause I thought someone translated and said, that's not what he said, but then Alicia says...
No, the version of the statement that's on the homepage, like, multiple translators have looked at it and they're like, no, this is fine. So
what is the statement?
Yeah.
What's the actual statement?
give me a second, I will bring it up and read it.
Okay.
Well, all I saw were a lot of people on my Twitter feed reacting to it, in different directions, and I was like, "Oh man, I wonder what he said." And then I was out of town, so I didn't really pursue it. And
While
then-
Alicia looks it up, to comment on the other thing, the dancing, I didn't mind it when the red danced. When the others spontaneously did it, that bothered me a little bit. I was kind of hoping that he would kind of do it, and they'd go, "Huh, okay," and then they'd do it after him.
Yeah, because
So I was a little bummed out that it wasn't like something he taught
I had
them.
the episode playing today while we were recording, and I looked up, and the green guy, he transforms, he puts the battery in the gun, and he does a little dance, and it's just like,
Yeah, and
Why
he's
do they need to do
supposed to be
that?
the really serious guy. He's supposed to be all, I can't,
Yeah.
no time for friendship for me, but no, there's time for samba.
I kind of like how I love the insanity of that. They just got to get their dance on before we transform.
Yeah, I liked it conceptually. I felt like if all it needed was an episode where the red guy did it and the rest of them kind of went, huh, and then they sort of slowly built it in that they would all do it, so that by the time you get to the black guy joining, like knowing who the black guy is and everything, and that they all join properly, then when they all do it together, it's kind of a bigger deal. But I mean, it's not a deal
No.
breaker. It was just it could have been handled a tiny
it
bit
is.
better.
It's funny though. It's like it's almost sort of like, to me, it's like Wizards talking singing belt, where I don't know. I mean, at the beginning, I was like, really, we're really gonna do this, like, but we'll get used to it.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, and Alicia also brought up how I didn't like. I was saying like maybe that girl action figures are usually web exclusives. So wouldn't business sense?
Sadly.
Yeah, wouldn't business sense mean that if you want to sell more toys, you make more boy characters,
Well,
as
yes
opposed to
and-
it being misogynist?
Yes and
And-
no,
but then
because
also, there's
the
the fact that.
Sentai-
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say yes and no, but in the Sentai figure arts, the only team where they released other than the Reds, the only team where they released the other male Rangers mass retail was Gokaiger, where they did green and blue. But Shinkanja and Deca Ranger, the other Rangers are all exclusives other than the Reds.
Same with Go Busters. Buster
same with
Blue
Go Busters.
is a web exclusive.
And so
Although
is Yellow.
that may be more a case of poor Go Busters than
Well, no,
anything
because
else.
they did it on Jetman. Jet Black was
Yeah,
an
Black
exclusive.
Conrad. He's arguably more famous,
Black Conrad.
or more popular than the Red. I mean, depending on who you ask.
Yeah.
yeah.
No.
I will mention. I want to throw this in because I mentioned this on WTF, but I actually plan to go back in and marathon through Go Buster sometime in the next year because when it ended, the discussion ongoing on my various social medias was interesting to look at, and when it ended, there were a couple of people who just they literally are like, I'm so sad to see what this was go, and so I actually I want to go in and check it out sometime because I know that a lot of people fell off the train for Go Buster, but at least people were talking about it. Ergo, why I'm going to go back and take a look at it, as opposed to Go Sager, where no one talked about it, everyone just ignored it. Poor Go Sager.
Yeah, so I found the quote.
All right.
All right.
Here we go. This is from Takahito Omori, who is the producer of Kyoryuger. I think a really important piece of context for this is his first show as chief producer, and he is one of the youngest chief producers we've had in a while. I think he's 32. His quote, as translated by Deca End, is, "This is actually not the first time a team is without a yellow member. Jacker, Battle Fever J, and Dengeki Sentai Changeman never had a yellow member. When it was decided that the Kyoryugers would be required to defeat a dinosaur in order to be able to transform, we wanted the characters to be absurdly strong. In order to show this, we chose to have more male characters than female characters. Seeing how modern yellows have been female, we felt we couldn't have a male Yellow. If Yellow was male, the kids would probably think he is feminine, and we wanted to avoid that.
That's kind of funny because like wasn't like Magi Yellow male?
Yes,
And
that's in the last.
Yellow was a male. He was the strong guy of the team.
Yeah, he was like Yellow Owl. Yeah, my thing here is just, that's my opinion of this. If he had not opened his mouth, I just would have thought, oh, they put yellow on the costume, so yeah, of course we don't have yellow. Why is this even an issue?
I didn't even know it was a thing that anyone was going like, where's the Yellow Ranger?
People actually are kind of mad about this if you go to the right sorts of forums.
Yeah.
You gotta be like, dude, what made you say that? What possessed him to say, this'll be okay?
Yeah.
I think that's, like, I'm not mad at him so much as I just think that's a real dingbat PR move to say. Like, why go out of your way at all to explain why you have no Yellow Ranger, let alone say, like, yeah, you know what, we needed them to be absurdly strong, and if we have a male Yellow, everyone's gonna think he's a woman. So, look at Power Rangers. They all bought that was a lady and she was a man half the time. I mean,
What'd I say?
What'd I say? I mean, Japan is like, I always recall, like, Japan as a culture is, like, in terms of male-female politics, is a little bit of a half step back for sure. But, yeah, that's just a really silly statement to make. That there was no reason to make it.
Yeah, since there's no apparently no excuse. There's no well, we can make more money because then if we brought up the idea of if the Green had been like a tomboy samurai girl sword slinger, how hot and awesome would that have been?
I love this idea of all these Japanese children looking at a man in yellow spandex and going like, he must be a lady. Only ladies wear yellow.
Every time I see the Green guy, I'm like, you could have been a girl. That would have been awesome.
What got me is that, I was thinking that if that was going to be proven wrong, it would be in episode 3, because that was Green's focus episode. But no, you could make him a girl, and I think you would probably not have to change a single line of dialogue. It just, what his character about has nothing to do with his gender.
Is he cool anyway?
Oh yeah, he's cool. I mean, he's a fine character. I don't get worked up about the male to female ratio on Sentai very much, because what I care about is whether or not they're just good characters.
Hello?
Hello?
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Did we lose her?
Oh, hey. Alicia, we lost you for that whole thing.
Oh no. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Well, it should have recorded on your end anyway, so it shouldn't be a problem. But
It did.
Yeah, all we got was you just want good characters.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah. I just care about whether or not they're good characters, and when you're dealing with Sentai, I mean, there are seasons that will have great characters no matter what gender they are, and seasons where no one's really a good character, no matter what gender they are, and it's, again, if this guy had never opened his mouth, I wouldn't think anything was amiss. In Kyoryuger, Pink is not treated poorly at all in any narrative sense. She gets all the great fights. She's treated very much as a complete equal of the other characters, and if you do that, I think it's totally fine to just have the one girl on the team.
Yeah.
Now, the balance of it never really occurred to me at all. That's why when people were talking about the statement, I was just more so curious as to why such a statement would even need to be made. Mm-hmm. Like, about the lack of a Yellow Ranger, about the ratio. I was like, I was just really confused as to the context.
I dig those gun morphers a lot. I gotta get one of those. And they got adult holsters.
Those gun morphers are yellow, by the way. So, way to be a girl, Keith.
Actually, do the morphers have a very Kamen Rider-y kind of vibe to you guys as well?
They are
the way they talk, and you touch this and you press that and you spin this around.
They're clearly looking at the Rider toys for some inspiration, which I think is fine, because Rider has kind of stomped Sentai for maybe the past 5 years or so.
Oh yeah.
Quality-wise or sales-wise?
Sales-wise.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you've had Rider. You've had Rider breaking over 200 million units with everything since Double, and Sentai has really been struggling ever since.
I did not know that. I just saw it with our Western fandom. We were like, we love Kamen Rider because it's a little more serious. But in Japan,
Igedevil just reclines with a cigar in his mouth, and he's like, "Yep."
cool.
It makes up for the '90s, all those years when Kamen Rider was the forgotten franchise. I think now, I agree definitely that this whole statement. I mean, if he had just never said anything, we wouldn't be having this discussion. Or if they just said, well, we used yellow as a major color on all of them, so there you go. Now, I do wonder, though, if it has anything to do with the fact that there's going to be extra team members from what we've been seeing of the scans and all that.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people are wondering if now Nagasawa is going to end up being an extra female, because we know that she's in the show, but we have no idea what her role is yet.
And we have our first white guy ranger.
Yes! Gaijinda!
That is, I hear he's like a spirit and will show up for a little while.
He's apparently going to be in episodes 5 and 6, according to the last crop of scans that went out.
And so, he's got a full suit and everything, so I can't imagine that they won't be using him some more.
Is he Cyan, or is he one of the other
yep,
ones?
Kyoryu Cyan. A lot of people are thinking that maybe we'll get a Kyoryu Silver, who is going to be now Nagasawa or something, and will pass a battery on to Pink.
Oh. Yeah.
And there's a Kyoryu Gold, too, right?
Gold looks like he's our 6th. People are speculating we'll get, I think, orange, violet, and gray and silver. No, as extra rangers. Not orange. I'm high. There is not an orange. But yeah, gray, violet, and silver, they're thinking we'll get as extra characters just based on the numbering of the batteries. And because it's it seems like the first 10 are going to be ranger batteries, and then 11 goes to the motorcycles. And all the others are going to be attack effects or something.
It's like Deca Ranger all over again.
Yeah, kind of. Well, yeah, actually, Deca Ranger did have a bunch of rangers who were around, but weren't in every episode or anything.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So, Vangelus, what have you been geeking on lately?
I got a couple things. I'll try to keep them all short. One real quick one, just Transformers-wise. There's a new Beast Hunters... Beast Hunters is Prime Season 3, so there's new toys out which have Beast Hunters all over them. The packaging is all entirely changed in style, so you can really notice it. The Voyager price point, they have a Voyager Optimus Prime, and I'm in love with the toy, because he's basically a love letter to Galaxy Convoy, in every sense of the word. He's a beefed-out-looking Optimus Prime with a wing backpack, and he has a big-ass sword, and the figure is tremendously satisfying. I've already started modifying it because I like it so much. I don't even... there's a modification I did. I'm only doing it because I can, because I like the toy. Because he's way bigger than a lot of the last few Voyagers have been, and the way they did that is he's got a lot more volume to him with empty space inside. So he has these enormous legs, but they're pretty much hollow, and that's how they're able to give the illusion of this bigger size. So someone figured out how to design with 10 pennies per leg and a bunch of scotch tape, ballasts to weigh down his legs. And so I did that modification for no reason other than I want to keep doing things to the toy because I like it. I've also inked in the lines on his face and stuff. I made him a faceplate. I'm in love with the figure. So, if you have $20 lying around, you just want a cool super robot Optimus Prime, I'd recommend him. He looks really cool.
Cool.
And then the second thing I want to geek about is another toy, which is actually something that came thanks to Tamashii Nations. And that is, Bandai has this line called 12-inch Perfect Model. So this week I received and put up a review of the 12-inch Perfect Model C-3PO, which is a collaboration between Bandai and Sideshow Collectibles. It's a project that was spearheaded by a man named Seiji Takahashi, who is a professional modeler and toy designer and massive Star Wars nut. And there were two goals of this project. Number one, make the perfect 1/6 scale C-3PO replica of the costume. Number two, render the thing in as much die-cast metal as possible. So everything on the toy except for his hands and the cables of his midriff are thick-ass pieces of solid die-cast. Oh. So it's a 12-inch tall C-3PO that weighs 2 pounds.
This is the thing that Crisis and Adam, I think it was, saw at New York Toy Fair?
Yes, it has
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
hydraulics in the elbows and stuff, and the light
Right,
up
right,
eyes.
right. Yeah. That does look cool.
It's a gorgeous piece of toy. It's very expensive, but it really fills out the cost. There's a trinity in this figure that fill out the cost to me. Number one being the diecast, and I am the last person to tell you that I think diecast immediately makes a toy good. It's like one of the things that Transformers fans kind of grow out of over the years. But this is one of those times where the diecast is artistically and specifically used as a feature in a really satisfying way. Number two, the light up eyes are really well done. The wash batteries are in there. You just pop the back of his head off, flip a switch, put it back on. The light feeds into the eyes the same way as it did on the original costume, with 3 pinholes in each eye. And then number 3, you can actually pull him apart, like when he got blown up by a stormtrooper in Empire.
Oh,
And
really?
it's all held together with really solid C-clips. Every single one is specifically keyed to where it's supposed to go, which is a bummer because that means he can't like plug his legs into his shoulders or anything. And because he's made a diecast, like there's no fear pulling him apart. So the one downside of the figure, other than the price, is that his posability is as limited as Anthony Daniels' posability was when he was wearing the costume and standing up. Which specifically boils down to the hips can barely move, because if you watch the movies, Anthony Daniels could barely move his legs. And that is one of the biggest cop-out arguments for articulation on a toy that you can make. And I appreciate that, and I usually agree with that, but this is the one case where I am making it because the mission statement of this toy was to replicate that costume. And this is one of the things that will be lost when replicating that costume. So it was a really cool experience to get to like do some coverage on such a prestigious item. It's like a love letter to Star Wars, to costume design in general, and to toys. So I was very thankful for that. It was a good time. And then the last thing I want to geek on is a game I actually received from my buddy Ray, who just finished it, and he and I and some others all wanted to play this game, but we all wanted to play it for under $30. This was Capcom's Asura's Wrath.
Oh yeah, I played that.
Which we all thought looked really cool, not as a $60 game.
No.
But we were hearing things about it, so I've got it. I've played through 7 episodes of it. I'm friggin' in love with it. I will never defend its initial price point, but the best way I can explain this game so far, so I'm 7 episodes in, so I don't want to drop spoilers, but I've been through the Wizen part of part 1.
I think it's a good spoiler to drop and a good selling point to say that do you fight a guy the size of a planet yet?
Wizen in his Gonga form.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is not
Gongen form.
This is no exaggeration. You're on the Earth and you stop his finger from pressing down on you because he's the size of the Earth.
Okay,
itself.
well, let me lay out how the situation works. So you've already been fighting him. Now he's the size of, like, he's big. He's about as big as the planet Earth, and he's dropping his finger on you. All right, his finger's like going through re-entry burn as it's coming towards you.
Yes.
You're Asura. You've already got 6 arms because you got so pissed off. So this thing's coming towards you, and suddenly the screen says right stick down. So you pull the right stick down. Asura just plants his right foot. Left stick down. He plants his left foot. Pull each stick to either side, and he throws his arms out and basically goes like, "Come at me!" And then like this enormous finger just drops on him, and then you have to just start pounding the B button as he punches the finger so many times that 5 of his 6 arms explode. And then you time the Y button with this final blow that blows the guy apart through his finger. So the best way to explain this game, it's not an action game. It's not a classic video game. This, to me, feels like Capcom Japan attempting to make a point-and-click adventure game.
Yep, interactive anime.
Yeah, it's instead of being, it's like The Walking Dead, pretty much. It's a classic adventure game through the filter of Capcom Japan, who are a company that are, over the last couple years have been having these really weird bouts of complete insanity. So, whereas The Walking Dead has, like, moments where you have to sort of point a gun and click a button to shoot it, this game will throw you into third-person action sequences that you cannot possibly lose, where you're just kind of beating the snot out of 50 things at once. And then, much like The Walking Dead, cutscene after cutscene happens, and all of a sudden there's a timed on-screen prompt, and you better not be in the middle of, like, munching on a hot dog or something. You gotta push a button. So, don't get this game wanting to play a contemporary proper action game. This is interactive anime is a great way to put it. This is and like Capcom Japan's psychotic anime adventure game.
Yeah, it's constantly at that part where Goku goes Super Saiyan and his eyes go white and he's got like veins all over his face. Like the tone is always like that.
Yeah, and the guy who voices Asura, so this is the thing I asked Ray when I got it. I said, do I go English or Japanese audio? He said, use English audio, you have no time to read subtitles. And I believe he was right. And to the game's credit, the English voice actor, specifically for Asura, he can do the yelling.
Yes.
That most English voice actors can't. I believe he played the Hulk in Avengers, the cartoon. That's what I caught on Twitter, and his screaming is very familiar, and he is good at it. If you can get this game for under $30 and this sounds appealing, I would highly recommend it. Bear in mind, you have to get the DLC. I'm already aware of this, but once you beat, like, what's on the disc is not the full story. They created a DLC chapter that is the proper ending, and that's a bummer. But apparently that DLC chapter is utterly necessary to get the full enjoyment out of the story.
You fight,
number two,
you fight capital ships.
Well, yeah, when Yzen comes down, there's a part where you go to the third-person action view, but so when you're playing third-person action, it's like God of War, where you have heavy attack and light attack, but you also just have the ability to start shooting stuff out of your fist. Like, you're just literally shooting angry punches. And then you can hold the button down, and a reticle comes up, and you're just suddenly playing a shmup, where you're planted on one part of the ground. So a capital ship, like a spaceship, is in orbit, and I'm sitting there shooting punches at it and throwing its rockets back at it as it starts just blowing apart under my angry assault. And I thought I was just fighting the ship. Then I realized at one point I saw one of the ground-based enemy grunts fly off, like just fly up from the bottom of the screen. And I took a look back. I was still in the action sequence. It's just that Asura is so mad and throwing such enormous attacks, everyone who walks up to him to fight him is getting, like, detonated back across the valley. So it's really worth playing, especially if you're listening to this podcast. You're into the kind of stuff that we talk about. But if you can find it for under $30, I would say you should probably go for it. If you're not really sold yet and you find it for $20, just take my word for it, put the 20 down and pick it up.
Or it's like a perfect weekend rental. It is magnificent for like I don't think it's too long, and if you can rent it, then you will have a hilarious, awesome, just larger-than-life, explosive time of just Super Saiyan action constantly.
But don't like, I would, and I mean, I haven't played through it much at all yet, but I would recommend, like, if you can get it and space out playing it, it is literally presented in episodes. There are commercial breaks, and every episode ends with a cliffhanger and a Tsuzuku on the bottom right of the screen. And then an eye catch for the next episode.
I got confused at that. I was like, "Wait, what? Am I playing? What?" Yeah,
it's literally presented as episodes. Yep. So if you're able to, like, and I'm not saying like you need to, but there's almost like an extra value in being able to just play like a few episodes at a time, watch the next eye catch, then take a break, because it's like it is all in the theme of being this adventure game, this interactive story, rather than an action game. But if you can actually pace out playing it, I think it would be all for the better.
Hey, he wasn't Hulk at all, although he was a voice in Planet Hulk, but he was also the voice of Wrath in the Kamen Rider Dragon Knight video game. Just as a random thing as I'm going. He hasn't really done anything that's leaps out at me as a super memorable...
Was he in Berserk? Do you think
I haven't made it that far. I'm still in the 2000s. He's in Naruto.
He deserves some work. He deserves some work. Because he can do... I listened to the finger scene in Japanese on YouTube, and I thought that the English voice actor actually did it better. He really sells the rage. So, Asura's Wrath.
He was Vincent in Ergo Proxy.
I'm giving it thumbs up right now. Like, I'm only 7 episodes in. I just finished part 1. But it's well worth the time.
Japanese tough guy drinking sake minigame in a hot spring?
I haven't seen that yet. Okay, I just came back from Naraka the second time.
I see.
And then it hinted that Calro was going to fight me, and I was like, I've just finished fighting Yzen, and that's kind of exhausted my brain. So the Yzen fight, it takes you places.
Yeah.
Like, the way that before he becomes the size of the planet, the way you launch him into orbit when he's already the size of a building, and you go into his stomach, and then it's like, mash B, and you're literally, like, just pushing through his body until you catapult him into orbit. It's like...
Yeah, you won't believe what you see on the screen while you're playing it. It's so much fun.
And this is all in the first hour and a half. I mean, like, I've avoided spoilers. I don't know where it's just gonna go, and I'm really happy, because I want to be taken away by this thing.
While we're talking video games for a sec, I just got the new Tomb Raider yesterday, and it's really good. Like, really
I've been hearing
fun.
I've been hearing some positives about it.
Good.
Yeah,
I heard nothing but smack talk leading up to it.
Yeah, I'm a big Tomb Raider fan, so I was hoping for a nice reboot, and we got it. It's a lot of fun. The action's really creative. The voice acting is pretty good all around. It's not like gonna change your life in the video game world, but it's a lot of fun, and it's one of the better reboots that I've seen, and I'm super excited. Plus, if you get the special version, it comes to the Playouts Kai version of Lara, and that's really cool. It's a great toy.
Yeah, I've heard that it's not like going to be game of the year for anyone, but it's by no means a terrible game. It's like the best I've heard is I had a good time playing it. The worst I heard is I was disturbed by that time that the thing goes up through her face, but that was about it.
Damn.
Yeah, I mean, it's brutal. Like when crap happens, it's pretty brutal.
It's Dead Space composer, right? Like the music. As I understand it.
Yeah, I think so. There's actually a pre-order extra where you get a code to get all the soundtrack for it, which I haven't done yet, but I think I might, because it's got some really good music. But there's little moments, like, you know, you're walking along and you get caught in one of those traps that hangs you up by your ankle, and so then you're fighting off guys who are coming at you shooting while you're hanging upside down.
Cool.
So it's a really fun little show.
The pre-marketing on that game was really misguided, but I was hoping the end result would, like, the pre-marketing of, like, no, don't worry, you're gonna like this poor girl so much you'll want to save her, and I was like, that seems like a really interesting idea that you've taken in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
As far as a statement to make.
Not something you want to say with Lara Croft.
Like, no, you'll want to protect her, and I'm like, that's, no,
Lara Croft!
I'm supposed to be playing as her in this game. I'm not supposed to be the...
Perhaps you haven't heard of this character before.
Yeah, I don't necessarily feel like you don't need to protect her, but I mean, this is definitely a reboot, so it's her going from being, I'm going to study archaeology, to, you know what, sometimes shit gets weird.
I'm going to shoot a frigging arrow through this mofo's eyeball.
Well, they talk, like, the first time she kills someone, she, like, blows this guy's head off, kind of to save her own life, and then throws up about it and feels like crap about it. And one of the big complaints is that as the game goes along, she's killing people left, right, and center, and then in the cutscene she's like, I can't believe I've had to take lives. Whereas when she's playing, she's like,
that's one of the classic character dissonances in a lot of video games, where it's very hard to hit that balance to have a character who regrets their actions when they're being controlled by a player who may well just be a sociopath. Like Grand Theft Auto 4 being the classic example.
Doesn't the Uncharted games come up a lot about this? Where
yes.
They're the mass murderer. Yeah, they were talking about that on Pre-Order 66 the other day. Ichabod brought it up. That, Nathan Drake is essentially a mass murderer. Like, he's a treasure hunter, and there's another treasure hunter that's up for the same thing, and he's like, oh, really? You brought goons? And then kills them all.
Yeah, but, and like Grand Theft Auto 4, you play as a criminal who's constantly talking about how he wants to get out of the life, but then you're just thrown into an open world. And so if you want, you can have this guy who talks about, this is all too crazy, I just want to settle down. And then the moment you're back in control, have him like run over 50 cops on a motorcycle and like start just katanaing random civilians on the beach.
Yeah, but no, it's a fun game, well worth checking out if you're a Tomb Raider fan.
Lynxara, what have you been geeking on?
Since tokusatsu's legal, guys, Akiba Ranger's coming back. It's gonna be awesome!
I know.
Oh no, I am so psyched for this season. From what we've seen from the scans, I love Nobuo's terrible power-up armor.
That's so good.
I love it!
I've had people I've had so many people snarking on that, and I'm like, did you guys not watch the first season of Akiba? Like, this is right in line with the theme of the show.
No, and what makes it super perfect is that Yumiria, she is credited under her real name. Her real last name has changed, and in some of the shots we have of her, she's clearly wearing a wedding ring, so she has married someone. It might turn out she's gone completely crazy and married like a fictional character, which would be fine. That's what these people do. But what I'm so hoping for is this story arc where, because someone as dysfunctional as Yumiria has managed to even find someone and settle down, and in the first season, Nobuo is 29, so I would love for there to be like an actual thing in this series is that he's realizing, oh god, I'm turning 30, and I still live with my mom, and all my friends are married, and this existential despair manifests in his super mode, being his terrible Arrested Development idea of the perfect woman who literally wraps herself around him and makes him immune to what bad people are. Oh, it's brilliant! I love Akiba Ranger. I'm
just wondering how they're going to handle the fact that they know they're on a TV show. Like, are they going to forget? Is that going to be a thing? Did the female Blue Ranger, because we know it's a new one, did she leave because she couldn't handle being on a TV show?
I'm curious how that's going to be written. Because the real reason why is she switched agencies, right? Like, that's why she's...
I've heard conflicting stuff about that. One person I know who follows this says that she did not switch agencies. That's a rumor. It really just is that she decided she wasn't interested in being in a second season. But if so, that's fair. My stance on these things is that the performers in these shows don't need to be fans. They just need to show up and do their job and take some pride in it while they're doing it. So I'm okay with Odagiri Joe moving on. I'm okay with Masaru Nagai never mentioning Time Ranger. They gave me a year of fun, and that's really all they had to. I think it's great that we are getting Yumiria back, because I love her, because I kind of am her a lot more than I'm comfortable with knowing. but the great thing about Akiba Ranger is you're watching it, and then the character admits to something horribly embarrassing, and you're going, oh my god, I've done that. Oh god.
That's what's so great about that show, is that the characters in Akiba Ranger in one way or another are us.
Yeah.
Whether you want to admit, if you're listening to this podcast, there is something of you in the Akiba Rangers. Whether you want to admit it or not, whether you know it or not, there's something of you in there.
There's that
Looking over at the action figures on my desk.
I'm sure, Chris, you know this as well as I do. That moment in the first one where the Red's looking at the Chogokin in the window, and he's like, "Oh, I wonder if I can afford that." Like, that's every toy collector. That was out of all of our lives. Every toy collector's life has had the one moment where you're like, well, if I stop eating for a week and I have a loaf of bread in my... A loaf of bread's only $3, so I can live on a loaf of bread a week, and that's $3 a week to eat. That's an extra $250 in my pocket. Hell, man.
I can buy that.
I collect macros. That's me for a long time.
I'm so happy that you guys like the power-up armor on Akiba Red, because I saw so much awesome. Snark about it. I was wondering if it was going to be a minority thing, of people who dig it. I was like, because someone sent me a link to the figure arts, and I was like, thanks, man, that looks awesome. And I got the response like, oh, I wasn't expecting that response. And I was like, wait, what? It's body pillow armor.
This is the thing. It's awful, and that's what makes it awesome.
It's awful in a really specific way.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people did find the first season designs unironically awesome. Just as, they're doing Sentai designs, but there's armor on them, like we wanted to see forever. And, this is, I believe it's Keiichi Sato who's doing the designs, and that guy is a complete master of what he does. But a downside to this is that somehow I think some people did watch Akiba Ranger and not realize these characters are all kind of not admirable. They're not cool. They're good characters, but there's nothing here you should emulate. This is just about the terrible truth of when being a fan has become a long-term lifestyle.
Over geeking.
Yeah, and, that super mode for Akiba Red is the power of over-geeking and just being like, I am a terrible man baby and I am never going to develop mature ideas about women and I'm okay with that. And that's beautiful. Right. That is the show. I love it.
I was wrong. Terrible Man Baby should be the name of that album that Keith
No, I
mean, if someone liked the designs unironically, there's nothing wrong with that, because there are very cool aspects to them. I just was... if someone was going to tell me, oh man, that armor on Red is so silly, I just kind of would blink. Like, I'd be like, well, I mean, I don't know how to respond to that without first figuring out what you thought of the show. Because...
yeah, I know some people have been complaining about the new helmets on the girls. I really like the buns on Yellow and her little ribbons trailing down.
Yeah, and Blues is so similar. I don't know what the big deal is. Like, it's just like a split ponytail, right? That's the only difference.
What?
Well, it feels like it's almost a joke of, like, they've got new forms, they changed their hair. And like the big deal the magazine made, like, look, Blue has a garter line on her thigh. I was like, that's hilarious.
I would have thought they would actually had more money to make new suits and would want to sell more toys.
What I have heard
that was kind of weird.
Is that during filming of Akiba Ranger, the kind of spiky hair pieces the girls had then, they would tend to break off. Oh. So the main thing they just wanted to change with the redesign was something that would be a little bit sturdier, and I could see how both of the new really the new helmet designs would stand up to filming a little bit better. I also like that they've changed Blue's her other costume details just a bit, because I'm getting the feeling she's going to be a very different type of character than the first Mitsuki.
Yeah.
I think she's supposed to be some kind of aspiring idol or something. So if they do know that they're on a TV show, she could have joined just to get attention. She is the stereotypical girl who joins AKB48 and panders to the otaku mainly because she knows they have deep pockets.
Yeah, I
hadn't thought of that. Cool.
The whole notion that we're going into this season after the end of the first season, I find really exciting. Because, I mean, like, the way that they revealed it with, Nobuo, like, coming out during that stage show, and then, like, screwing up his own stage show transformation.
Oh, I love that!
Felt like
it was so good!
And I don't know if you guys saw the Akiba Ranger, like, I don't think it's been subbed yet, unless I missed something, but, their live show, the unofficial episode, whatever.
No, I haven't seen it.
I watched the raw of it, and there's some really cool stuff in there. And there's like just really, it's really fun watching Akiba Ranger play with the notion of the live show, like the tropes you find in that. So, like, coming off of all that, I'm just really excited to see what they do with season 2, because I think the options are really, there's a lot of roads that they can follow that would all be pretty cool in how they can set the stage for a second season.
Well, and what's amazing is we're going to get Akiba Ranger 2 in the same season as we get the third Garo series, which also looks completely amazing. Oh,
I was going to bring that up next.
I'm so sorry, Will. Pretend like I didn't. Keith, what have you been geeking on?
Well, did you guys see the trailer for the new Garo series?
There's a new Garo series? Please.
I heard Gokai Silver's in it.
I know! Oh my god! Go! Anybody can say anything. I cannot wait. And I didn't know it was going to be so soon. I thought it was going to be like third quarter.
Yeah, I was thinking summer, like a summer-fall, which I think was around the time we did Makai Senki. But no, we're getting it in spring, and it's a whole new cast.
The costumes looks...
April 1st,
the costumes look so good. The suits look so good. The idea that this is going to still all be in continuity, like that they figured out a way to do a full, like that's what Garo I think needed at this point was a refresh of the main cast, and to figure out a way to do that, and as far as I could tell, keep it all in like to make this mythology. And it's Keita Amemiya who friggin', as far as I could tell, loves to make his own mythology. I'm so excited.
Time jump. New characters, all bets are off, and you got like a gunslinger, female, knight, I think? Is she gonna be the female knight that we saw, like, I think there's a pachinko machine?
The knight in the pachinko machine is called, I think, like, Scorching Knight Yaiba. Her weapon is a naginata.
Okay.
So that's probably not her, but the thing I like about Garo is I know that even if there are no women in the show who can transform, they will still matter. They will still be doing things. They will still be getting into fights, using their powers, and in some cases doing things that just no one else can do, and I'm completely okay with that. I know some people are.
Oh man, that
further fleshing out like all the characters you can have in a Makai in a Garo universe. Like, do you see like the cast standing alongside each other? There's like a special forces like SWAT team looking chick. Then there's like the Lolita gunslinger. You got Gokai Silver. He looks pretty grim, wielding a scimitar. What? Okay.
There's so much cool stuff in that trailer. Like, when someone linked me that, I was like, because they're like, hey, did you see the trailer for Garo something something? And I was just like, oh, the movie, like, Iga said the movie was pretty cool, but it's not out yet. And then I watched the trailer, and I'm like, who is it? Wait, what? Ah! And, like, I ran onto Twitter afterwards, and I was like, you guys!
April 1st! It's, like I said, I was just like, alright, well, they're gonna tease us for something we'll be watching in freaking October or August, okay. What? April 1st!
Ooh, April 1st, man. What if this is the most elaborate April Fool's prank ever?
If it's Keita Memiya's prank, I'll eat it in the mouth and like it.
Exactly.
I mean, like,
He's
like
giving me so much
Makai
happiness.
Senki. Makai Senki, I've said, like, that I appreciate that for a lot of folks, Makai Senki got a bit weak by the end, but I don't care, because I still loved what they were doing.
I really liked Makai Senki. I liked that Koga was there, but they could open up the universe. You could just stop and do an episode about someone else. There were actually episodes about the fact that women can't be Makai Knights. They're not happy about it, and in some cases even dudes are like, yeah, this is bullshit. We don't know why, but you can be a priest. You're a great priest. We like you still.
Yep, but when they took the time aside to do a Jobby episode,
I
was like,
love
okay,
that episode. That's like my favorite episode of the show.
This will be the episode where they don't try as hard. Okay, whatever.
No, that episode was awesome.
She kicks ass. She kicks ass.
Oh wow, yeah, that was so good.
No, I mean, Garo at its worst. That being Dark Knight Apocrypha for me, and to an extent, parts of Red Requiem. Red Requiem, I came around on a whole lot, watching it a third time, and like, even if the show is not very good, Garo, when it's not very good, still does, like, as long as the budget's there, it does stuff that makes me still like it, and I think that's why Dark Knight Apocrypha lost me now and then, because it had such low-budget stuff going on. I cannot fathom a way that I won't enjoy the show. Certainly, this might not be for you. If there are parts of this teaser that are pulling you away from what you love of Garo, that's fine, but I am gonna friggin' eat this with a spoon and like it.
Yeah, I cannot see Koga and Zero not showing up. I can't wait to see, like, the cameos of, like, the alumni of this show. Just like, hey, you think you're a guy? I don't know what they're gonna say, but I can't wait.
With a spoon, I'll eat it with a spoon.
Oh, yeah. So, like, Garo, for me, makes everything okay. Like, when it comes to Kamen Rider or Super Sentai, if they're not doing all the things that I want them to do in the show, you know what? That's okay. I have Garo that does everything I want in a tokusatsu.
Well, because Garo, to some extent, is the franchise meant for us. It's, you know, if you wish Kamen Rider would not be totally different, but maybe a little bit more grown up, maybe a little bit more collector focused, that's Garo in spades, and you'll never have to compete with the kids for Garo. Okay.
I thought for a second you were going to say that's Garo in space. And I was like, oh,
I want Garo in space.
Wow.
Garo in space, whatever it was, would be amazing.
No kidding.
Spoiler for the new Garo. Halfway through, you find out that all the old characters are just fighting in space. There you go.
They have ascended to another plane and are back kicking ass there. So yes, that was awesome. In Jinyu Ikeda, the Gokai Silver, like he will be putting up his crackhead hat, and like he looks like he's gonna be quite serious. Like
his fights are gonna be so good. He's gonna beat up people, and it's gonna be so good.
Putting up his crackhead hat is the second album.
Be a follow-up to Terrible Man Baby.
Exactly.
That'll be my finale album, I believe.
Oh, you go
I'm
out
sitting
on
here
that?
scratching my knee and looking really excited. Thanks, guys. Like, I'm just like, Garo.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all you need to know, Garo. All right. Should we go out on that one?
Me.
Well, Paul might
Paul
want to
can
talk
also
about what he's
Paul.
thinking. You
Paul. No. I thought you were talking about Kamen Rider.
Good morning.
I thought the Kamen Rider talk was your geeking, but please, sir, please, I want to hear.
Well,
more.
the other thing I was going to talk about is actually the thing I can't talk about, and that's the Garo movie.
Oh,
Garo.
tell us about the
Garo
Garo
in
movie,
Wonderland.
please.
Which
Is it
no,
really called?
no, it's what is it? Blue
Looks like
Cry
it,
of the Dragon.
Dragon of the
Yeah,
Sky?
it's something like that.
That now I guess based on what you guys are saying about the new show, that this movie is kind of like the send off for the old cast, basically.
Okay.
Probably.
Because I didn't really get the sense that this was like the end of anything, but it did sort of feel like, well, they're really getting together, everybody. Like, there's a lot of cameos in this of TV show characters, but yeah, this
Because you don't get to see them in the trailer.
Oh, really? Oh, well, I won't tell you who shows up, but
It's okay. Cool.
yeah, this movie was seriously like one of the best tokusatsu movies I've ever seen, just because it's so different, and it's really kind of heartbreaking that it's not on. It didn't even break the top 10 at the box office. Like when I went to see it, and this was day after opening day, I think there were maybe 5 people in the theater.
I wish I could say I'm surprised to hear that, but I'm not anymore.
I can imagine.
So long as they get in the way of making another TV series, and it was good.
Well,
I'm
Garo
fine
is
with
so
that.
collector focused that I think the whole property is designed where it doesn't need a lot of people to be into it. It just needs the people into it to be really willing to buy stuff.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's watching it. It was one of those movies where I really got the sense that what Amamiya is able to do is have complete creative control over every. There's not a single frame of the movie that felt like somebody else said, "Oh, well, you got to add a toy in here" or something like that. It's everything is completely 100% his vision, and it's so incredible. I mean, it's usually, ironically enough, special effects are one of the last things that I care about in tokusatsu. Considering that's like one of the big things about tokusatsu is that it's got special effects, but usually they don't matter that much. But this is one case where the effects are so good, I have to, praise them. I mean, they did an amazing job combining CGI and puppetry. And actually, yeah, and that's one thing about the CGI characters. Something that I love is Amamiya was always big on using stop motion. Back in the 90s, and in the Rider movies and in Hakaider, there's some big stop motion creature at the end. And the CGI characters, they almost look and move like they're stop motion.
Oh, because that's kind of how I felt about some of the really cool CG of like mechanical creatures in Makai Senki, like the Dreadnought and the Dreadnought, and then like his giant transformer at the end, which was so friggin' cool.
Rocket feet.
Oh man, it has rockets to lift its legs because they are so heavy.
Now I remember.
Yes.
Wait, and you're not that much.
No,
of a Garo
I
fan,
haven't
right?
watched the show. Actually, I've never gotten around to. The only other thing I
wow.
saw was Red Requiem, which I liked, and I've decided that one day I will sit down and I will watch everything Garo. Maybe if they ever decide to stop. But I kind of liked just coming into this basically blind. Like I didn't know anything about the movie going in, other than I saw the trailer. I heard the jokes about it's Garo in Wonderland and all that. Because it really does look like that, I think, from some of the pictures.
Yep,
It's
absolutely.
not called that? I thought it was called that because I haven't been paying attention to it. And when you said Garo in Wonderland, I was like, that seems like a silly name. But
It is straight up, like, there's no two ways about it, that this is influenced by Garo in Wonderland / versus Oz.
Yeah, pretty much. And I mean, it has elements of Alice in Wonderland and Wizard of Oz, and I was reminded a lot of Labyrinth, if you remember that movie. And there's
Oh man,
Yeah,
I
and
love
there's Nightmare Before Christmas in there. I mean, there's just all sorts of things. The world that they create in this film is just amazing because it's like
It's okay.
When is the DVD
hopefully
out?
soon.
Hey, breathe, Chris, breathe. It's okay,
hopefully
buddy.
soon because it's
Okay.
I don't think it'll be in theaters very long. I'm hoping that it comes out like within the next couple months because I will definitely get it.
I got this vein on my head that needs to shrink, and it's
Because it's such a visual feast, pretty much, and it's a really good story too. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward story, but yeah, I really dug it, and I was really impressed. And it's I don't know, it's kind of sad that this is probably going to be a movie a lot of people are going to overlook because it didn't get that much money, and not everyone's into Garo or willing to give Garo a chance or whatever. But I think it's such a different movie and such a unique film. I mean, we're coming off of the Fourze movie, which I really liked, but I can admit is much more kind of that's standard tokusatsu fare, whereas this is something that was all new, and there are things about it that I never thought were possible until seeing this movie. So it's definitely one you have to check out. I guess that's my final word on it. Like, watch it.
Things I didn't think are possible until I saw this movie. Awesome.
How quickly
And plus-
do Garo subs usually come out? Are they usually pretty timely with them? Or?
quite often.
We plan on doing it as weekly. One of our encoders and like sort of the big pillars of Overtime is a huge Garo fan, and I think Takanoko over at TVN is also a huge Garo fan. So this show will definitely be covered.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Makai Senki was getting like weeklies out constantly. Like when new Garo stuff hits, it seems like every group that is willing to cover it does so as quickly as possible because it's got such a following. Like I think that Makai Senki like literally like I was like, oh hey there's a sub. Like it was there before I even knew it had aired.
Well, it helps that in Garo people don't stand around talking all the time. Like I worked on the Overtime Makai Senki. We had an episode where counting songs, it was under 200 lines. Not a
Go ahead.
I was gonna say this is not the hardest show in the world to sub, and that's frankly kind of a good thing because if you're watching Garo, you should be looking at it, not reading it.
Yeah, it's a very visual show. I mean, like, and when you say that Amemiya felt like he had full creative control, that is what I loved so much, especially about Makai Senki, because I felt he had pretty much full control of the first season, but Makai Senki, I was kind of, like, especially coming off of Red Requiem, I was kind of worried about if he would be able to maintain all that control or if he needed to pull in more money to do it. But when you watch Makai Senki, like, for better or for worse,
I got
like
this.
everything in that show, it's like you can just see Amemiya waving his hands around as he's storyboarding stuff in his mind and like just explaining it to the CG artists who are all just staring at him like, gawking, jaw dropped, like he's like, okay, I want to have this thing. It's like a box, but it's got a lady statue on it, but it's also a dreadnought, and its feet are swordsman statues whose arms come to life and wave the swords around. And then, but it's realized with such utter confidence that it's fantastic.
There's like this one CG artist like in tears.
So like one thing that I was gonna mention in the Fourze review, and it's but now it's inconsequential. But I just saw like in the beginning of the movie when they got thrown out the parking structure, I was like, that was the fight where Garo and Zero fought. So anyway.
That is still one of my favorite. The Zero debut episode is still one of my favorite 20-some minutes of tokusatsu in.
Yeah.
Oh, that episode was great.
That was the episode that was like, okay, what is this show?
I loved Zero, and at the time I just could not believe that I loved him because he was clearly a play on what secondary riders and Kamen Rider were like at the time. And for the most part, I didn't like those guys, and I had no use for them. And I'm like, these guys make the show suck. And then Zero showed up, and no, this guy's not gonna make the show suck at all.
and then they're falling between the buildings, and then the timer shows up, and you're like, oh man, the timer!
Yes,
and then,
yes.
Yeah.
When they both jump off the buildings at each other, you're like, "Oh my god!" And then like,
it's that wide shot where you're just seeing the little glow kabooms between the two towers at a distance where you're like, oh, they're fighting between the two.
And
Oh!
they start sliding, and then like the frame goes horizontal as they're sliding down the building, but they're standing on the side of the building. Oh my god!
And how do you possibly, in your mind, just come up with the idea of we're just going to put them on a green screen, but the green screen is the building they're falling past, and we'll have them. We'll pretend gravity's still down, but we'll turn it sideways for the wire work to have one of them plunge his sword in and stop while the other... Like, the imagination of that sequence and how it was blocked is so cool.
And then I keep on going, how will they top this episode? They can't... Oh, dude, they did... Oh, my... They just kept doing it. And then they did it into the next series. That fucking show, man.
So yeah, Garo. It's alright.
It's okay.
It's where you might want to look at it. I don't know.
I've set aside a perfect beer for that evening. I'm going to go to a place called Melly Mel's where they have the best ribs in Madison and greens and spaghetti, and I'm going to have myself a night. It's going to be awesome.
I want to... Okay, when the movie comes out and the subs are out, I want to have a Keith night because I never have had that. So I'm going to go get myself I'm going to go to Holy Chuck. I'm going to get the Go Chuck Yourself. That's 6 fresh ground patties between 3 grilled cheese sandwiches.
Wow, dude.
And
is that a real thing?
And then
okay. The
then
best burger place ever, Holy Chuck.
And you'll take some
I'm gonna go home. That's right. Just gonna hardline like 3 lines of cocaine, and I'm gonna get out some Four Locos.
God
and
puts these things on Earth so you can enjoy life. So yeah, I got it's gonna be dragon's milk mixed with cherry chipotle meat, and that is a flavor that has taken my favorite dragon's milk to the next level. I have it set aside. I'm ready for that night. So.
I actually drink, like, I don't drink a lot of alcohol, but mead is like the one alcohol I do drink, so I can support this plan.
Yeah, I didn't know you can mix it with beer. Oh well,
you can. I prefer just a good honey mead just on its own. I think it's fantastic. But
yeah, mixed with Imperial Stout, cherry chipotle meat has a fantastic aftertaste. It's fantastic. Anyway, yeah, no one bothers me that night.
Lock the doors.
I can't wait for it to come back.
Cut the phone line.
Keith, the building's on fire. Just 5 more minutes.
Keith, I just tweeted that you and I are totally I misspelt it. We're totaling becoming the same person, anticipating our watchings of the new Garo.
Bro fist.
We are just becoming the same person.
With Garo double. Yes.
I should really live tweet these episodes because there's so much that just out of context would be hysterical for other people.
I'm just gonna get myself a bucket of raw red meat and I'm gonna douse it in rum and set it on fire and just start eating it with a fork and it's gonna be a good time.
Chopsticks. You got class that up, dude. Class it up. Chopsticks, raw meat, soy sauce, and rum and fire.
A little bit of avocado in there.
Ooh,
yeah, good time.
So yes, we love Garo around here, and
apparently.
And that new suit. I love the silver accents, and I wonder if Kei Tamamiya is going to be that awesome that he'll have a story as to why the Garo suit is just a little different.
I saw in one of the news items that apparently it has to do with like he's the new owner of the title of Garo, but whenever he transforms into the suit, it's like tarnished or something like that.
God, man. Kei Tamamiya, you just know how to do everything, right?
I know, because like that, just the very description of the visual has me like my mind is racing with ideas of like who is this guy? Is it him? Is there something wrong with the suit? What the hell happened to Koga? And there's like a bit in the press article about how like Zaruba is there, but he's oddly silent most of the time. Ooh. And I'm like, what does that mean?
Kei Tamamiya, you did not have to do that. There's so much stuff you didn't have to do, and he did it anyway because he loves life and us, I think.
And so as we wrap up the Garo episode of HJU Radio,
IGADEVIL, tell us where can we find more of your work on the internet?
It's not a good question to ask me right now.
We
really don't want to know.
Oh yeah.
You really don't want to know. So just follow me on Twitter, and I'll keep you up to date.
At IGADEVIL. All right, Craig, where can you find more of your work on the internet?
Well, although he never says it, you can find me and IGADEVIL over at the Fourze talking every week about toys and everything. We just passed our 100th episode. And we've recorded episode 101, which I have to spend a lot of time editing because Skype hates us. But other than that, yeah, that's pretty much it. Actually, oh, Twitter at the Screen Man on Twitter, Fushcast on Facebook, the usual places.
And to a letter that somebody wrote to you on your podcast, I meant to tell you that I agree with the guy that action figures are almost kind of like, the religious symbols that people put up in their houses because we draw inspiration from them and they remind us of stories that give us inspiration. So you kind of dissed his letter, so I'm saying that he's kind of right.
I don't even remember the letter. When was that?
Yeah, I'm way behind on podcasts.
I was gonna say, Paul,
yeah,
do you remember that
I
letter?
don't remember dissing it. I thought we gave it a pretty good explanation.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I remember, Craig, you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's not the same thing.
I don't know what you guys are talking about either.
Never mind. But you guys should listen to the Fourze.
I just retweeted Craig.
I was going to say,
he posted a tweet about red meat and cocaine, and cocaine and red meat for Garo, and I could just do a line right now. I mean,
save it for Garo, man. That shit's expensive. I don't know. Anyway,
what?
I was making a drug joke. I'm sorry.
This is going
it's not a joke,
weird
man.
Direction.
Okay. Yes, listen to Fushcast. It's a fantastic podcast. Lots of fun.
Toys.
Lynxara, where can you find more of your work on the internet?
Yeah, mainly I run Low Visibility, the podcast that cannot see. I run that with my husband, Matt Comics, he hangs out at HJU and is on the HJU cast sometimes. You can find us at lowvisibility.podbean.com, or we're on iTunes, and by the time you listen to this, we should have a new episode out.
Excellent. Vangelus, where can you find more of your work on the internet?
There's vangelus.ca, where I post a lot of links to what I do, which happens at Vangel1us on YouTube, or I do the TFW2005.com Transformers podcast every week, where we just did 2 episodes, because I have 2 different teams, about some Transformers Toy Fair stuff. The YouTube videos, a lot about toys, a lot of other things. I'm also on Blip, which is cross-posted on that guy with the glasses. I'm also on Twitter as Vangelus, and I just totally got this tweet I retweeted that says red meat and cocaine. And Keith just replied to me saying that we will be double Garo. Then no spoilers, man. I mean, we're keeping that under the table. But yeah, look forward to me and Keith showing up on Garo sometime soon. It's going to be great.
I wouldn't mind being an extra that gets killed. I would pay money for that to happen. All right, and you can find the rest of Hinch and Justice stuff at hinchandjustice.com. We're on at Hinch and Justice on Twitter and Hinch and Justice Unlimited on Facebook. That has been HJU Radio number 47. Kamen Fourze, everybody, it's space time. Thank you so much for listening. It's been fun, and we will see you guys in space. Or definitely when Garo airs. So, see you then.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Good night, Internet.
Red meat and cocaine!
Clock over.
Two